So we're still waiting on 2 members, but we have a big agenda, so I think we're just going to get underway. We have quorum. So this is the May 16, 2018 meeting of PROSTAC, call to order. Just want to welcome our new member, Michelle.
Thanks.
I think you met everyone, right?
I think so.
Okay. So any public comment?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you know what? I can either give a preface or feel free.
Why don't you preface?
Yeah. All right. So we, as you guys know, had an exchange a couple weeks ago about fertilization at the dog park, which is something we do 3 times a year for the contract, and ended up after initial concerns, had a great dialogue with Tasha, who's here tonight, and then a handful of other residents just about process down at the dog park. As you guys remember, the ones who have, I don't know, Ron, you were on the committee during the dog park, Audrey Park years. Peter, I think you were. You know, we went through a lot of public dialogue and feedback. Went through a lot of public dialogue and feedback to come up with the design, but we haven't really checked in on that design. And what we've been doing is we've been making incremental changes based upon feedback from the public. And Tasha brought several points to our attention that we were thinking we were making some improvements, but we were actually causing some greater issues, or maybe we were making improvements, Andrea, a little bit one-sided without thinking of the entire picture. So we've been engaging in kind of a consistent dialogue over the last couple of weeks on some process improvements and some many improvements down at the dog park. So I invited Tasha to attend tonight. One, just because I think it's important the residents know that a lot of what we do design-wise is vetted through some kind of community process, which the dog park was. And then 2, I think she's had some good constructive feedback about some things that we could do differently and maybe some things that we could prioritize differently. And one of those that I was specifically seeking feedback on is we have a sodded dog park, which is extremely, as you guys have heard me say in the past, extremely expensive to maintain, and it doesn't feel like we ever make up any ground on it. It's a little bit like Scanlon baseball field. It gets loved to death, and we want it to get used, but we also have a hard time keeping the grass growing per se. So, hey Susan, how are you? Come on in. So that's really, I mean, Tasha is there. Feel free to come up to the podium and add anything that I might have smoothed over if you want to get into detail a little bit more.
So just to give you a little background, I grew up in Louisville, graduated from CU, moved down to Denver to do the finance corporate thing. Got laid off in the financial crash of 2010-ish and started a pet sitting and dog walking business shortly after. And so I've been doing that for the last 8 years. Over the last 8 years, I've helped over 450 residents in Louisville and Superior, with about 95% of them being here in Superior. I've covered about 12 miles a day on foot, walking through our open space, and I spend on average 1 hour to 2 hours every day at the dog park between my own dog and client dogs. So I wanted to represent that, and it's such a community, the dog park community is. And I think there have been some changes that have been made that aren't quite focusing on functionality or the knowledge of how dogs behave. A lot of us are really confused about what's going on with this whole sod business, because we have, it just doesn't make any sense. If you've ever been to the dog park, dogs walk in and pee at the entrance. that sod you guys just put in is gonna be dead in no time. And we're confused why we didn't spend that money on sodding where it should be and block that off. The fences have caused a lot of problem, and I'm hoping those can come down as soon as possible. If you've ever seen how dogs greet each other, a funneled greeting area is like the worst thing you could have. Dogs get cornered, owners are back there. First of all, how many of you go there?
I go there all the time.
Okay, and then how many, do you both have yards?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm here also representing the thousands of residents who don't have yards here in Superior. This is the one place that we can have our dogs off leash. And it's kind of our home. I know a great deal of my clients and friends go there multiple times a day. It's more than just a park for us. And unlike playgrounds and fields where there's multiple ones across Superior, we only have this one location. And when you think about downtown Superior opening up here with a lot more townhouses, we're gonna get a lot more residents without yards. And the dog park is essential to us to having happy, non-destructive dogs. So we're concerned about decorative boulders being put in. To us, it would be like putting a pretty painted slab of concrete under a playground. It's dangerous. It doesn't make any sense. If you've spent any time there, dogs go whipping around. People trip over things. I've tripped over the mound over there myself, getting out of the way of dogs. And there's just a list of maintenance items that I've shared with Patrick. If the goal is to try to get more traffic, people have given me ideas. In the last 2 weeks since Patrick invited me, I have talked to about 40 regular dog park goers and just asked them what their thoughts are, what they like, what they don't like. The dog park is a super treasure for us, and it's more of a necessity than just a great place to go. So, yeah. One of the ideas that they were mentioning, Patrick, you may be able to get more people down to the other end to get higher usage. If we put in more shade options, similar to maybe like what we have at Wildflower Park along Indiana there. They're kind of benches that face outward. Yep. And if those were in the corner, kind of pushed against the thing, I think we get a lot more. That picnic table that you put down there is not functional because between 3 to 6, it's not shaded and it's hot. And it's really tough to have picnic tables at a dog park because you can't really be engaged in watching your dog, which is really something a little more important than people might think. Also, it encourages people to bring food, which is the worst thing you could do. And it's just pretty tough to swing out and manage things when you're sitting at the dog park. Also, the front picnic table is rarely to ever used because if you sit on that side, you put your back to it. I was there twice today, and each time I went, people were huddled under the shade at the very opening, and both times it's just everyone was there, and they love the shade, they love that area, but that's why one of the reasons, especially in the summer and spring, it gets more used at that end. Having some more shade options at the back might get more movement back, as long in addition to the path that you were talking about. We would really like the fences to come out, and we would really like some holes to be filled. There's about 10 plus really deep holes that not only accumulate bacteria-filled water, they trip us. You know, you would think that dogs running into rocks, dogs running into hard objects like the fire hydrant sounds really silly. But if you've ever been there when one dog comes running in and all of a sudden the whole pack starts swinging around and it's a frenzy, people try to get out of the way. I've seen people trip over the fire hydrant. I've seen dogs run into it. I've seen fetch dogs go to turn and, you know, whack into things. Trees, you know, at least there's no blood there, but these hard metal objects in the middle of the dog park, while they're really pretty, are totally unfunctional. And so I guess we'd just kind of like a little more thought on functionality of these things than making them pretty. Our dog park is such a treasure to us, and we love it. And one of the things we've loved about it is that it's been an all-weather dog park with the gravel up front. When it was muddy, we could all stand there. It kind of wiped the dog's paws off. In addition, it kind of weathered the dog park sign-in sheet where every dog walks in and pees the second they come in. But now it's all grass, and which is fine, but I think it's going to be a wasted investment for you all.
Sure.
And we just love that there's grass this time of year. We don't even mind the weed ground cover, like, because that at least covers the grass. It sometimes hides poo, which, sorry to talk about it, but we love it. We just kind of would like more communication, because we feel like that whole thing happened without much notice, without much information. Plans changed, things got delayed, signs weren't updated. We'd also kind of like more notice on things like fertilizer, any of that stuff, to at least give us a day to plan, to make other plans, because it may be organic, but onions and chocolate can be organic, and those
Sure.
are still toxic to dogs, and it gets on their paws or on their balls and they eat it. So we're just wanting a little more communication and a little more notice on things. And I would maybe even encourage, if you make any more bigger changes, to have, you know how you're having your community meetings for this area here? Maybe just having that for the dog park, since it's so widely used by so many people. It's not like it's just any random park. A lot of us depend on it. So those are my ideas, and I've talked to a bunch of people, and I'm happy to give you any more of those, because I've written them all down. And we're just really fortunate, but we don't feel like we've had representation. So, all good?
I think we're committed to working to fix it. So, yeah.
Are you gonna put in boulders then?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I don't. Like I said, we haven't committed to doing anything.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, there's no.
We thought boulders was a done deal, so that's
No,
why.
no.
Okay.
No, and a couple, and something I shared with Tasha is I think that we've probably inadvertently maybe been listening to onesie, twosie requests, assuming that those requests were speaking on behalf. We had very specific requests to get rid of the pea gravel and replace with sod, and we thought that was a reasonable change, but we're starting to hear that that wasn't well received by some people. And then the fire hydrants actually came at request from somebody who said they were also an avid dog park user. So what I was sharing with Tasha is it's good to hear maybe the multiple uses, right? I think sometimes we're probably quick to be responsive. So a couple of instances of us, you know, we, as you guys have heard me say, we get beat up for the weeds down there. So you try to mitigate the weeds, which is hard to do. You add sod, but then you got to block off the sod. So you put up fencing. So I think that we're going to maybe just try a do-over and a reconfiguration, because it's well loved. It's being loved to death, which I was sharing with Tasha. And staff starting to feel like it's on the verge of, we either need to shut it down periodically to keep the sod going, or we need to kind of come up with some different options. And I think that that's where an ongoing dialogue with not just one or two.
Is rotation a possibility?
Rotation, we're also looking, there's the grass circle out in front, maybe doing a flip-flop scenario. So, you know, nothing is set in stone. And what my comments were, and this is very sincere for me, is we haven't intentionally tried to do anything negative. We've tried to be responsive, but maybe responsive without listening to more than a handful of people. So lesson learned on our part.
Those of us who live there, we use it rain, snow, shine,
Right.
you know, whatnot, and being there for hours a day. It's kind of our second home. My closest friends are there. And it's not just a place we go, it's really a special place to us. And we thank you for creating it, but a lot of us feel like maybe changes have been made without involving the people who use it the most. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's no other public comment, we have the introduction of the committee coordinator.
Hi there. Many of you have already seen emails from me. I'm Karen Snortland. I am the new committee coordinator for the town of Superior. Obviously, as most of us all know, it is a new position for the town and a new position for me. And it's been quite interesting in the month and a half that I've been here to do some research and kind of find out about other cities and municipalities and towns that have positions just like mine, which I didn't think were out there, but they are. So it's been very interesting to do that. But I just wanted to come tonight. I'm spending the month of May visiting all of the committee meetings to kind of introduce myself so that when you see correspondence, emails, get a phone call from me, you'll know who I am. The big project that I'm working on currently is a survey that will go out to all committee members, staff liaisons, and potentially board liaisons to kind of get feedback on the effectiveness of the committees, the satisfaction of you as committee members, and to kind of work on a recruitment and onboarding process, as well as using the feedback from this survey in order to streamline processes across the committees. I'm finding that all of the committees are kind of doing a lot of things very differently that could be streamlined in order to make things more effective across the board. So I'm gonna have this survey. I've been working on it since I started, and it's gonna be ready to go out the first or second week of June. So do please take some time. It's not gonna be long or lengthy. It's gonna be easy with just bullet point answers that you can kind of plug in. There will be spaces for comments, so do feel free to give comments as well. Because like I said, I'm gonna use that in putting together some streamlined processes across the board and putting together a manual for boards and commission, or for committees and commissions, so that when a new member comes on board, like Michelle, who we have here tonight, we'll do a little bit of training and onboarding before throwing a person into the meeting. But we're also hoping that these committee members will come and visit a couple meetings before they apply and are appointed onto. That's going to be part of the processes across the board, is to encourage new members to come to meetings in advance. So that's my first real big project that I'm working on. You'll also notice on your agenda is the bullet points for the PROS monthly newsletter. That was another thing that I came up with in the beginning, because I wasn't really seeing through town correspondence and communication that your wins and successes and your projects are getting out there to the community, so that the community knows what all of the committees are working on. And so I felt it was really important. This is kind of a small way to start that. Just by getting the bullet points in that PROS newsletter. It went out this afternoon, so I hope you all received it and were able to look at that. But we'll do that monthly, and you as committee members will sit for a few minutes on your agenda and kind of discuss what you want to share with the community for each month, and then we'll get that out there. And there's some ideas to grow it bigger as we move along and utilize it as a part of my recruitment process. Because I think, like Trustee Hammerly and I were speaking about earlier, is if you get that information out there to the community and they see, wow, I can't believe the PROSTAC committee is working on this. I want to be a part of that. Then hopefully that will encourage people to apply and come on to our advisory committees. So I just wanted to introduce myself and let you guys all know a few things that I'm working on. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions committee related.
So you sent the newsletter 3 hours ago?
Katie Rummel puts the newsletter together, and so she sent it out.
It was good. I read it.
Yeah.
And really quickly, while Karen is still here, because we have it on our updates and look aheads, and I'm not gonna make you stay until 9:30, Karen.
Sure.
Yeah. So Karen's going to be the point person from our departments on the cemetery improvement project, since that's going to be a cross committee project. We'll go over that detail, but I did want to let you guys know that Karen will be the point person on that, and I won't make her stick around to get into the weeds with it just yet.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a kind of exciting little temporary working committee that's going to be put together from current committee members to work on the cemetery improvement projects, and it's going to be one of my first projects, so I'm excited about it.
Cool.
Cool,
So
thank you.
excellent, thank you.
Thank you, welcome.
Thanks.
And she also put together, so Corey, one of the things we're working on
I
is,
already have comments.
there you go, yeah, is streamlining notes, right? So each one of the advisory committees takes notes completely differently. And there's kind of patterns and different thought processes, and sometimes some record too much and some record too little.
That's why you can always delete it.
Yeah. So Karen's been doing quite a bit of research with surrounding
So
jurisdictions.
does that mean I'm not supposed to type more than the 4 lines? Is that after I get to 4 lines?
So unfortunately, in a PDF form, you can't make expandable boxes unless you create it in Lifecycle. So, and we don't have that program. So on the PDF, you just have that amount of space. And like I said, you're just kind of a guinea pig for that tonight. So I do want your feedback.
After the very first public comment, I ran out of space.
I've got.
Oh, no, I moved to Word already.
No,
so I was just checking.
right. No, and that's okay. That's okay. And what I hope to do with that whole process is to do a training around it for all of those who do take notes. So I found some fabulous resources on note taking and action notes versus minutes
Versus just
because,
stuff.
because we're not really taking minutes, we're taking action notes. So we'll do some training on that as well.
I love it.
Cool. Thank you, Karen.
All right, so our next item is 5-year trails plan, but because we've been asked to look at the Anderson proposal, and that our interest involves a trail within that proposal, we're gonna address that one first before we get into the 5-year trails plan.
Anderson proposal.
Everybody good visually? Great. So as Peter mentioned, we're getting to that point where we're starting to get development applications that are going to be kind of prepped and ready for the advisory committees to comment on. I think what you guys have probably heard a lot from me lately is we're not there yet. So as we kind of go through these iterative processes with developers who are submitting proposals, we do some initial intake. We make sure it's code compliant. We make sure it's meeting the intents that the town wants to see achieved. And then when we feel like it's getting fairly close and it's going to be submitted to Planning Commission and ultimately scheduled before the town board, we bring it to the advisory committees who have a purview applicable to the project. So Anderson, and I'll give you guys just a little bit of context. What we're ultimately looking for tonight is some just kind of thumbs up, thumbs down on things like trail alignment. And to give you just a little bit of context, this is tract H, okay, 88th here. So it puts us, 36-ish, maybe on this kind of line. This is that open space. There's social trails through there. Corey runs on them because we've talked about it. This is the Frico Ditch Road. Everybody familiar with the location? Do you guys want me to hit it on a Google map?
Is that trail the exact same as the it looks like the exact same.
Extension? That's a good question.
No,
You know what?
It
For
looks like the
simplicity,
exact
I'll
same.
bring it up. Yeah.
Is the existing social
it's the
trail.
existing social trail.
It is the existing social trail.
And then you just continue the road.
What does it run into on the west side?
So it's really that.
I'll reiterate my handy dandy trick for you map users. If you're on Google Maps,
It's that trail.
turn on 3D and it'll give you the most recent map versions of town. Okay. So here's the parcel that we're speaking about tonight. This is the social trail. There's a couple of them. There's a trail here, access road here, which the guys from FRICO, for those of you, I think most of you guys know, there's a big giant pipe buried under the road here. It's the FRICO ditch, which feeds everything. So social trail and social trail. And I use that term loosely. Those are fairly well-established trails. Those are fairly well-known trails in town, but believe it or not, they are on private property. We don't maintain them. We drive on them every now and then just to make sure that everything's safe, but that's actually private property over there. As you can see, it's a residential development with a planned connector street through. Again, nothing's finalized until the board actually gives it the go-ahead. And the items that we're looking at tonight, see if I can get a couple sizes bigger without disrupting too much, is trail connectivity. Anytime we get an FDP submittal, the applicant is required to show us how connectivity works. I'll just quickly kind of blow up the legend for you. Accessible sidewalks, existing sidewalks, bike lanes, paved trail, existing trail, soft surface trail, concrete trail, future trail, and we get these on every application. So as we go through the review process, we can make sure that we're reaching our connectivity goals. And as you can see here, with the residential kind of in between, street coming through, kind of an east-west street orientation with residential on either side. Formalizing some of the social trails to connect over. Using the future street, which will go over the FRICO ditch to connect down into Tract H. For those of you guys who remember that project, we kind of do currently have the trail to nowhere. And actually, I've got the trail to nowhere stopping right here at the property line. So intent being road comes through, some kind of connectivity to town center. You have trail connectivity that would spur off and go with Tract H. Potential future trail here. Trail along the access road. This is likely to probably stay an access road. You still have to get, there's some big head gates up there that control the FRICO ditch. Obviously, you'd want some maintenance easements back along here. And then this trail connects to the concrete trail back behind the homes right here at this point. You see Coal Creek Drive here, kind of just dead ends. Right. You can see, I actually believe that sign tells us it's private property, right, Corey, if I'm right?
It does.
With our nice, it's actually probably the most nicely groomed social trail we have in town. So, not the meatiest of FDPs. It's small. But in terms of trail connectivity, I think it goes along with a lot of our conversations to connectivity to Tract H and linking over to the town center or downtown Superior, which I know has been a priority for the group. Also kind of plays into some of our bigger picture conversations of, does the town ever extend our portion of the 36 bikeway to where, you know, we've got the pedestrian bridge now that crosses over to a vista. Right? Here's our portion of the 36 bikeway, jumps over onto the Louisville side. You're starting to not get that far, right? So this is the blue dotted line on the other sheet of paper. You're not getting all that far away from another leg of connectivity, which creates that you would have something from 88th all the way to Davidson Mesa Underpass.
But this proposal isn't actually showing a paved path. It says future. So if it's
Correct.
future, is the developer responsible for that future portion on this property?
I think that that's something that we could absolutely throw out there as a recommendation, for
And
sure.
then the trail is following the existing social trail. Are they actually doing any improvements to it? It looks like only that portion west of Coal Creek Drive is gonna be paved, that small portion. The rest of it is wet surface.
I believe it's a crusher fine surface. The request in staff's my initial review is 10-foot wide concrete trail on this whole section here.
That's what I would, I mean, if the developer is gonna do something, actually do something, right? If they're not actually doing anything right now.
So, in addition, we're not, the landscaping plan's fairly simple. Let's kind of get back down to street view. There's a drainage channel here, and you as you can kind of see, you get some significant grade changes. So, our request is that this open space area here, the landscape mimic what's located further to the west, which you could see becomes the irrigated native turf in town with dispersed trees. So our expectation, or at least staff's comments to the FDP, is that this need to be irrigated native turf with appropriate plantings to screen homes. You could see the homes further to the south are actually heavily screened already, but doing a necessary screening on both sides of the trails. And then, to your point, Peter, we've asked for 10-foot wide concrete trails through the development.
And is there a bike lane on the road extension?
That's a good question.
It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's sidewalk. The purple.
Because it looks like the road actually narrows as it goes through the development, correct?
Looks like you do have
Yeah.
bike
It is a
lane,
bike lane.
but it does choke down. I encourage you guys, if you have the opportunity, just to kind of, if that's not somewhere you drive normally, head over that way. It does. It's a really wide road.
It is wide.
It's like
And the choke down, I don't actually anticipate the choke down being too much of a negative. And then the other comment, just so you guys have a little bit of context, this trail junction here, kind of right across the road, we submitted comments of hoping to see that junction look a little bit more like when you're in Purple Park and you're crossing over Pitkin. You've got some kind of monumentation on either side. It's groomed, mowed green grass with, some flowers and aesthetics. This is we definitely want to demarcate that you're crossing a road on a heavily traveled trail, just like you are when you're crossing from one side of Purple to the other. So just a little bit extra feedback there on staff's comments in terms of landscaping.
What about on the Plan North, top page?
Up here, Corey?
Yeah, like, what's the termination there? Does it ever get across the FRICO, or is it just stop?
In terms of this is their private development.
That's where they stop.
Yeah, obviously, I think the expectation is that the town continue the road over, or whomever, right? Like, whether it's work on the easement to get over the FRICO road, which, that happens. Even McCaslin does the same thing. And some of why we left this side of Tract H intentionally blank with the concrete trail is because we hadn't seen this yet, and we don't know what's going to be over here. But, to that point, I think if I had to make a guess now, because this is a private access road and we built the trail right now, the Tract H trail, to get people off the road, I could see us doing some kind of decorative fencing on either side
Sort of connection.
that discouraged people from kind of veering, and we would make like a really accessible path to get down to Tract H. And then I think we have the opportunity at that point to figure out what we really want to do landscaping wise in that last little corner.
Is that where Park 5 was supposed to be?
That was Park 5. Boy, You're digging deep on the Park
Yeah.
5 reference, Ron. Good work.
Sorry. It's my job.
But that brings up a point that I'm thinking too. Yeah, I mean, we had that Park 5 parcel back there, but that's a very high density development to not have any type of playground or really any type of like landscaped park space.
Are those single family
Yes, correct.
or multi? Single?
Sing-
And
Really?
Or townhomes,
Those look like they were sharing a wall.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're
sure?
probably patio homes. They're probably extremely single family.
They
who's
were,
the
they were sharing.
Oh, yep. And are we
They're
sh-
duplexes.
Yeah, sorry about that. They are sharing a wall.
Well,
Well,
Good
my
catch.
point's all the same.
Like,
I
Yeah.
mean, there is that
You're right.
gap. I mean, what is that like 2-unit gap?
Those are outlot tracks. Those will be, let's see. You're gonna have to excuse my red line here. These kind of tracts that are just little native areas with plantings around the outside. You can see a little bit of that landscape that we were chatting about, mimicking what you're seeing on the other side.
Let's go to the top left. Can you go to the match line, sheet 31? On top right. Might just be an error on the plan, because it looks like there's
Yeah, I think
units on
that
every.
all the outlots should be little sodded areas. And again, I apologize, this is a previous iteration, as you can see my comments in red.
It just looks like there was a gap, but it looks
Yeah.
like that on this plan, all
Yeah.
their houses.
Well,
is there another exit onto 88th?
No.
There's
Not
not,
at
no.
all.
So
mm-mm,
it's all going through Coal Creek.
as of
Right.
right now,
It's all gonna
correct.
go through Waldona. That's
Right.
actually where it's gonna go,
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
Yeah,
I just remind the committee that
yeah.
do your best to stay within your purview, and
Yeah.
comments outside of that, I think are probably well directed at another meeting, not this
Yeah.
one.
well, I mean, as far as our purview goes, is I don't see how we don't recommend that entire length of trail be concrete.
Mhm.
That the developer be responsible for any future trail connecting into the bikeway on the north side of the northeast side of the development, and that there be some type of playground for that many units.
Unless you're going back to Park 5 again.
Well, and I think to bring it back, my comment back to this is with that circle there close to 88th, I know in Erie, they've done a number of developments like this where that circle actually becomes a park with a breakaway for fire access as well as other, I
I'm
don't,
sure it is already,
yeah.
because that'll be the second access point right
This
off
is
the
your
edge.
emergency access road
Gotcha,
here.
okay.
Yep,
So that little, yeah.
yeah, with tract D on the end, but I think completely appropriate,
Yeah.
tot lot type suggestion or play feature type suggestion.
Patrick, with the existing social trail there in that same spot, have we had much complaints from residents about that social trail being there?
No,
Okay.
no.
That's good to know.
Maintenance, I think people wish we do a little bit higher level of maintenance out there, but once we kind of explain that currently it's private property, I think people kind of
But nothing from the residents who are in there?
know, and something that we looked at in our review process. I mean, if you look at the amount of visual screening, it's fairly dense. And I think that that's a good thing to do, especially since the grade separation's a little bit higher. You'd have trail users potentially in eye shot of windows you maybe wouldn't want them looking through. So keeping it screened, I think, is a good thing.
I mean, it's
And then-
definitely less distance than the tract H, the homes on the south end of tract H have from this new development to the existing homes, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again, Peter?
Tract H is what, 250 feet from the back of the existing homes to the other side of tract H to the end
Yeah.
of the new homes?
Yeah, and then I want to say that the closest the
What's the-
trail width
what's
comes
this?
in is like 180 something.
So what's this distance?
Let's do a quick. $150, $160-ish.
No, so it's
Might get a little bit closer.
Similar.
Let's see if we kind of, probably a little bit closer down here. 130-ish maybe.
You're doing to the back of the home or the back of the property?
You know, it's hard to tell, probably, you know, I don't know, let's see. That one's back of house. We can scoot this a little bit up. 150. And then I think actually the trail, you know, here you're 20, 10, 15 feet. We get
Yeah.
further down, I actually think we might be a little bit closer in sections. You know, here you have,
Right.
here you probably, and then there were a couple of lots. If you look here, you know, the trail right now is basically hugging the lot line.
So at this point, though, they're still maintaining the FRECO ditch around the eastern side up there,
Uh-huh,
and that blue is future.
uh-huh.
So, but that's kind of a social trail right now, or no? From what I can tell, it looks like a roadway. Because that one gets kind of close to the highway.
It gets social use.
Yeah. But that's their just access drive up there.
That's the, yep.
And there'll still be a gap. I mean, that's actually more,
You're
it's
starting to get
pretty
into
tight.
CDOT easement. You're getting, it's CDOT property up there, so, you know,
Right.
there'd be some coordination. These are the head gates here for the FRICO ditch to allow FRICO water to head further east to the farmers and over to Louisville.
so really, I mean, at this point, this proposal basically changes a community trail to a official trail.
Correct.
You know, community social trail to an official trail, and makes it potentially concrete if we can get them to actually pave the trail.
Uh-huh.
And then we still get the connection to potential future connection to Tract H with the roadway coming through and to downtown.
Mhm.
I mean, it's, you know, and then like the density and whether or not there's a playground, all those things are, you know, you're linked into the trails, and there is some open space. It's just a matter of, like that one, if you could, you know, do a little tot lot, you know, it's where that hole is in the top right. Yeah, in there. You know, that's the potential of reducing the density, but also giving a little tot lot within that area.
Right.
Because I don't think there's a tot lot over there very close anywhere.
No, that'll actually probably lead into a discussion that we'll have
Yeah.
later regarding
Right, I was gonna say, it ties into the.
what you did, the Riverbend Park
yeah,
discussion.
number 9.
Yeah, so, and that, yeah. Which is a lot larger development without a tot lot.
Correct.
Which contributes to the problem.
You wanna go there?
Also correct.
Well, right, but that's also part of the, I mean, if this development goes through without any type of playground, we're just making that problem worse.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, that's where also I would say, you know, from an overall community master planning perspective, is there gonna be the Park 5 isn't going through anymore?
Park 5's now officially part of Tract H.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna be left.
It could be.
Open space.
I think once we know what this road alignment looks like and we know what the future looks like, I mean, it was never a great parcel anyway,
Right.
because it was this kind of no man's land right here. So what we did is when we knew that when we were able to acquire the rest of Tract H, for now, we just kind of drew that straight line all the way across and seeded it and threw some stuff over there. I do think if there's a desire to do something over here, we could. It's still a pretty rough. You know, you've got the drainage basin. I don't know.
But
Maybe that goes
anything
away
that
with future
happened
development.
On Tract
It's-
H or
it's-
Park
it's
5
part of-
falls on
under
the
the
town's dime and not the
Right. I
potential
agree.
development. So, I mean, do we make a recommendation? Is that what's designed?
Yeah, so this will go to PC and the board next month. So the two advisory committees that the manager has recommended see it, or you
Put that
guys
back
and
up. Put your
OSAC.
drawing back up. Put the. other
Put
one
the,
back.
the FD, there we go. This one, Ron?
Yeah.
Got it.
So what's that one purple line going? Is it a sidewalk or something going down? To the
That
left,
sidewalk?
further to the left.
Here?
Yeah.
Trail.
Okay.
Trail connectivity.
Isn't purple sidewalk?
Looks like it.
That's why I was kind of curious to know if it's.
So not 10 feet,
Accessible trail.
just
Okay.
still
could be
probably
anything.
9, 10 feet. Probably.
Well, accessible trail would
Standard
also
sidewalk width.
typically mean concrete for,
And meeting
ADA.
accessible grades, ADA
Right.
grades. Yep. Steep banks, a lot of topography change right
Yeah,
here,
that was my
believe
next
it or
question,
not.
Isn't it? Aren't they looking down from?
This is up above.
Pitkin?
Yeah. Let's see if we can kind of do a,
It's a pretty good
Nice
like
hill there.
uphill. That trail.
no, I always ride it the other way.
Okay.
And I was going uphill.
went the wrong way. Oh,
Almost bought
Illegal RV.
No, we almost bought that house, bro.
The two of them, actually.
yeah, so you get a, oh, HOA.
I know.
It's not just HOA, the town
Yeah.
just passed new
You're right.
regulations on.
Yeah, no, there's quite a bit of grade elevation change between the existing street and the development below.
So it's gonna stay. I mean, that's gonna stay there.
The grade will stay,
From the
yeah.
house to to first.
Yeah, so
house.
there's not a connection between those two.
Uh-uh. Nope.
Okay.
Which is why you don't see that shooting straight up.
So and then what's the difference between the yellow and the cyan? Yellow was concrete to the west, and cyan is bike trail, so that's just the.
Non-accessible, meaning that the grades are probably not consistent with the 5% that we need for ADA.
120. Okay. To me, it just comes down to that future paved trail on the far east. I mean, if there's a way to get that in there as well, because otherwise it's going to be, it's in the easement. We want to touch it, and how do you get that future connection?
I agree.
That one and the one on the angle. along
Yeah,
36.
The blue?
Goes along
Yep.
36 there.
Yeah.
You know,
'Cause if we
and
really want to try and push to get that connectivity on this side, that trail should go in this proposal. Even if it's a crusher, but I
Sure.
mean, to me, that's a concrete to match up to everything else that's put along 36.
And I think, I mean, I don't want to project too much into the future, but I think we've always talked about bringing the 36 trail to that point. So my guess is it's still showing future because we don't know exactly what's going to be on that other side. It's kind of that residential area in town center.
Who's the developer? Not that it matters, but I'm just curious.
Of this one,
Yeah.
I believe Boulder Creek Builders.
Boulder Creek.
Uh-huh.
No affiliation with town center.
No, this is in the Rock Creek
Right, no,
Ranch
I'm just saying
PUD.
It's not the same.
Uh-uh.
Same group.
Nope. Nope.
Just curious. That nothing to do with that.
Yeah, well, which is interesting because when we go through this, so each area has its different design guidelines. So we actually had to update. It's been a long time since we've had to review anything in Rock Creek Ranch. So our design guidelines. So we actually modernized first.
And this is going to the board next month.
It's tentatively,
planning
it's scheduled.
commission.
It'll go to OSAC and then PC and then the board.
So I got one more comment.
Sure.
My trail that I was talking about on the top right, I think, you know.
The
we'd
Corey-
really
the
like to
Corey
do the-
Trail?
Yeah, what?
Or definitely not
Whatever,
the
one
Corey
I
Trail?
commented on a minute ago. But I think it'd be great to put it in, but it's again, creating a trail to nowhere until something happens with Tract H and the future is figured out on the other side. You know, and that's where that connectivity and master planning of just
Sure.
really pushing for that trail
I
in
mean,
the
I
future.
would say they're either responsible for putting a concrete trail in there now, or they will be responsible at the time that it's deemed necessary to connect.
Yeah,
It'd have to be while.
they'll be
it'd
done
have
and
to be while they're
gone
building it.
before you get to that.
Well, right,
point.
but if you get it, I mean, that,
You know what I mean?
that's part of the approval of
Yeah.
the FDP.
Anyway.
So, I mean, you can word it one way or the other, or you could just tell them
Yeah.
that they have to do it, that that's the right. Well, so I'll make a recommendation then, unless someone else wants to make a recommendation.
You got one.
So I recommend, my recommendation is, PROSTAC recommends that the entire length of the existing social trail be concrete. That a trail running on the northeast side for future connection to the 36 bikeway be also concrete, and that some sort of adequate playground be added to the development plan.
You have to have concise proposals too to fit them in. I second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So passes unanimously. All right, so 5-year trails plan. So, thank you everyone for your rankings, with the exception of Michelle, since she wasn't here yet when we did them, but, if you take a look, it's, fairly consistent with where we've been. The top 3 came out as being Town Center Trail connections, including Tract H, the connection to Davidson Mesa Underpass, and then you have the trail on the west side of Calmonte connecting from, well, this is number 1 to Colton. That's the developer trail that's actually somewhat in place now, right?
Yep.
They're actively
Correct.
doing that. And then we have Coyote Ridge Trail maintenance and improvements, but beyond that, it's like every other one is basically the McCaslin corridor theme. So the trail, getting those trail connections that don't currently exist, so that the general idea with this has been for several years that you would be able to get all the way from essentially the southernmost street portion at the southernmost point of Indiana and McCaslin, all the way up to a regional town via some type of trail, not the shoulder of the road. So, you know, some portions of that exist today, other portions don't, and those are the fill-ins here, you know. The High Plains Drive at the ridge to Colton Trailhead, the Key Building down to what is that one? West Side, McCaslin to Rock Creek neighborhood.
That's
yeah, so like.
That's the trail that was approved Monday in the streets project.
Oh, was it?
Mhm.
Okay. So some of it's coming still, but that's been a priority. And then the lower priorities are, as you can see, kind of starting with the Autry or Hodgson Harris Reservoir Trail from Autry Park to the backside of the reservoir. Shanshan Property Trailhead, just down the line of those ones, mostly on the west side of town, Frico Ditch, so on. Those are the lower priority ones. So, do you have the OSAC one? I
do.
sent it to you. Because this is what our next step is really going to be, is whether we can come to a joint combination with OSAC, which I haven't actually joined the two yet, but, you know, I can say the number one for them was Shansian Trailhead. We have it as number 13. So where does that place it when we actually try to have a combined recommendation? That's going to be the task of the joint leadership meeting with OSAC.
Is that the latest map?
That's the map we used last summer.
So yeah, you can see number one for OSAC was Shan Trailhead. Number two is all at the bottom there. They didn't sort it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a different format here.
They're going by map number,
So
trail number.
yeah, they sorted by map number. Go to that bottom one, trail on west side of, that's because that's their number, no, that's number 7. Where's number 2?
Oh, I saw it.
Oh, extend soft surface trail
That's the McCaslin.
connection. Okay, so that one lines up fairly close. That was our number 5. So they're number 3. Just dropped off the screen. Single tree to Coal Creek, so that one for us again is pretty low.
6.
Oh no, you're right, it is 6.
Town centers, they got a 4.
The town center is 4. So yeah, I think the
Oh, yeah.
major point of contention is the Shanshan Trailhead. So that's a top priority of OSAC. They've already put it as a budget request for next year, right? Or it's already
It's already in the budget
budget
for next year.
for
It's-
next
We've got
year.
100K in the budget for next year.
Right. But this committee has been concerned about, well, part of its necessity, but also the road access, the kind of right in, right out. You have to, so where, depending on where you're coming from, it's just not a very accessible location because of the median on McCaslin and the traffic on McCaslin.
I would also argue that with our different charters, that we may have different focus in mind anyways for these trails. You know, they're, in my opinion, they're more of a open space charter and trails to provide to open space. I would think that that's where their primary focus would be, and that's why
Exactly.
this trail would be ranked higher than some of the middle trails, because that's what they're focused on, where we're looking at the bigger picture, so.
Exactly. Which is a bit of the reason why we sometimes have a hard time coming to agreement on the list, because like 95% of the trails on this list are not open space. They're, you know, within developed open space or trail connections along roadways and so forth. Whereas, and PROSTAC is concerned about all of those.
Right.
Whereas OSAC's primary concern is open space, which is mostly that west side of town connecting into county open space. So their focus is more limited. So we'll do the combined, you know, actual score, see where it shuffles out, and have a meeting with OSAC leadership, hopefully before both OSAC and PROSAC have their June meetings, so then we can hopefully finalize at June, our June meeting, their June meeting as well. So unless anyone else has any specific comments on this, this is our list, our final list, and then we'll work on the combined OSAC PROSTAC list.
I got a question then. Maybe I'm just not really understanding this trail and, you know, go away and come back, and sometimes things get confusing of which one's which. I mean, so the one we collectively ranked number 1, I know where that area is. I'm still not fully sure of what it would connect to what, because I mean, Tract H is not developed. Town Center Trail, it's just connecting to Tract H. It was ranked really high from everybody else, and I have it low because I'm not seeing.
It's not one trail. The number 1 is not a single trail.
Right, but without everything else in there, how does it flow with everything that's going to be there when we don't know what's there?
I think that's kind of the point, is our priority is to make sure that there is flow. That this stays at top priority, that any time an FDP is approved in town center, that is going to have some type of possible impact on a trail connection, particularly into
But I thought this
a
was
trail connection.
for trails to get developed. That we're wanting to get developed where we don't have those plots yet, those the proposals yet. So I guess in my mind, I'm trying to see it. I don't know what.
I look at it from a bigger picture and say, they don't have the plots developed, but Tract H was developed, and we didn't have the Anderson property developed, but there has to be an understanding of this connection to that connection,
Right.
and there might be 3 or 4 different proposals, but all 4 of those have to intertwine and make sure that we have, like this one, I'm pushing that we make sure those trails are
Yeah.
gonna connect to future trails, but if we don't have a future trail mapped out, we'll never actually get a trail. Because they'll say, oh, I don't know where I need to put a trail.
It's kind of like
So we need
the
to push to
It's
make sure they add
the
trails.
bikeway connection is a good one.
Focus, not a.
Yeah, we want to make
Right.
sure that like the
That's my
Anderson,
opinion.
the Anderson property development includes a trail, so that when we get the next development to the north of it, that it connects into it. Because if these pieces of the puzzle don't have approved trail connections in them, then you'll never have a trail.
I wanna know how in the
connect
future
through.
can I get to town center on my
Right.
bicycle?
No.
Is there a connection, or do I have to go to McCaslin or to 88th and go around from Louisville?
And
I wanna do
I
that.
get it as a priority focus for us.
Yeah, that's
I just- I didn't get it as we're trying to get something built in next year for us as a high priority trail. But I do get it as we need to focus on the master plan of how that system is gonna work together with all the different proposals that are coming in. So,
I like the banter. It's good to make sure we're on the same page.
The one comment I have is the 2017 to 2018 target
yeah.
needs to be finalized as 2018 to 2019. So when this list actually goes forward, that change will be in place.
And I just have a quick comment. I ranked the Shan Shan Trailhead high, simply because right now people park to access those trails at the Key Bank building area, which is private property. So I always thought that it would be good to have a trailhead in that area, just so people can park on property that's not private to access those trails.
Right. Okay. Okay, so more next month. Moving on to community center. So do you have an update for us, Patrick?
Okay, to follow up on where we left the dialogue last month, and Michelle, just to kind of bring you up to speed a little bit, the town's elected officials are interested in going to the voters in November with a potential sales tax and property tax ballot question to support the construction and of a, we'll call it a $17 million facility right now, as well as supporting the operating cost, which is going to be between $700,000 and $800,000 annually. the task that the board had given to staff was really kind of digging into the process that the city of Louisville went through in their public engagement process with their expansion, and as much as possible in the 4 to 5 months that we have left, come up with a community engagement process, which is what we're actively working on. So we presented a timeline to the board with some fairly critical dates, including hosting public engagement meetings and getting information mailed out to, residents and coming up with a phone survey and doing all the things that would be necessary to get your community up to speed and on board with a potential ballot question. Louisville's process took about 18 months, and we've got until August before we need to get our question kind of buttoned up. So it's literally been around the clock. Something that I think is high on the priority list is we need to button up what this facility actually is. And we're asking that we have that done and presented to the board by the June 11th meeting. The longer we don't know what the facility is, the less time we have to engage the public and educate the public on the pros and cons. The longer we debate about the amenities, just in my opinion and what we've heard by doing our diligence over the last couple of weeks is the earlier we get this thing defined and communicated to the public, the better. The longer it takes us to get this thing defined, the less likely the chance is that it's going to pass. So this is the same facility design that I've got up on the board that we went over last month. This is the same design that we showed the board prior to showing it to you guys last month. We briefly had some dialogue in terms of some points that you guys would like changed. I wanted to follow up on that conversation tonight and have that information relayed to the designer by tomorrow afternoon. The CAPS committee is going to review this at their meeting tomorrow night from a placemaking perspective. Katie and I have a phone call planned with their chair just so we can kind of understand maybe a little bit of what they're wanting to see out of it, just because the turnaround time on this is next to nothing. So that's where we're at with the process. I won't go over it point by point. It is on the town's website. I'd be happy to send it to you guys if you are interested in having it. I also have a project management software that I've been using for years that I've got this inputted in that gives you Gantt charts. I could also send that out. But a couple of big picture items that I think are fairly critical to this process. Here's where we are today, kind of a kickoff meeting with you guys, some design review. First meeting in June, my goal is to have some pretty buttoned up renderings to take back to the town board. I don't think we need construction drawings, but we definitely need to know what's in the facility, where it's going to be, what it's going to kind of look like, so we can start to communicate that out to the public. My thought was we host some type of large facilitated community meeting, generally the same week that we have PROSTAC meetings. That's worked well in the past. So taking the week that our June meeting would be and really trying to pack this room or the sports stable room or somewhere with community engagement so people can come in and ask questions. And then you can kind of go down the list, followed up after the engagement, I think fairly early in the process, trying to take the community's temperature on a willingness to pay, utilizing the 4th of July booth to solicit feedback, maybe some informal surveying, more community engagement meetings in July. And then you can see that we've got some deadlines here from Boulder County. So by end of July 30th, last day for the political subdivision to notify the county clerk in writing that we're going to plan to take, participate in the election. Followed up in August with some mail home information with graphics. Then you can kind of see later in August having the intergovernmental agreement signed between the county clerk and the county. And then really just this repetitive cycle of getting information out to the town. Something that I chatted with just very briefly with the town attorney today during our staff meeting is defining the roles that the town can play and that PROSTAC can play as this quasi-judicial or quasi-governmental entity. So once we submit the question, PROSTAC as it stands and staff as we stand, we're supposed to become this kind of neutral party to it where we're just giving pros, cons, facts. What you see in a lot of places is groups will kind of rally under different names or different headings, or a resident support group, or a Friends of the Community Center type group. So I do want to just kind of throw that out there and help you guys kind of define what your role is and what that looks like the further we get into the process. So that is something to keep in mind is as we get further along, PROSTAC, as this group sits here, becomes more, we're reviewing the design. We've commented on input on the design. And we can set things up like public meetings, but there is a bit of a fine line between supporting or being against one way or the other. The job, at least for staff, is kind of to present it as this. Here's the pros, here's the cons. You make up your opinion as the voter. And like I said, a lot of times groups will reform themselves as, advocates for, or sometimes advocates against. So I'm sure there'll be strong community groups that start to form one way or another in favor. My thought is most of the groups that I've already heard from are very supportive of the idea. So, any questions on the timeline?
I think the one thing we just need to nail down is the June meeting. We probably don't want to do that as the before PROSTAC meeting. It probably needs to be more than an hour.
I would agree.
I guess. So what's everyone's opinion doing it? Let's say our meeting is the Wednesday of that week, the 18th to the 22nd. So what if we did a public engagement meeting Tuesday? So we would basically have 2 nights in a row.
The 19th.
Public engagement the Tuesday and then our meeting the 19th. It's better we do the public engagement meeting before our meeting so we can then discuss at our meeting.
I agree.
So we don't want to do it like Thursday because we would have already had our regular meeting. So the Monday or the Tuesday before.
18, 19.
Tuesday's fine with me.
Me too.
And would we want to do that at 6 or 7 o'clock? Knowing it'll probably go like 2 hours, be my guess.
I think 7
Yeah,
gives
whatever's
people
fine.
plenty of time to get there. Get here.
So Tuesday, June 19th, 7 o'clock. We'll have to determine location, if we can do it here, or if we have to do
Yep.
it at like the firehouse or.
I'll work on those logistics. I'm also working, hopefully with Chris Rapinski from Greenplay to come help do the meeting facilitation on our behalf. Because I think one of the challenges that we're gonna run into is, this isn't a new process, but it kind of feels like a new process. We've been working on this for at least the 8 years that I've been here, and for some of you, Ron, Peter, Michelle, much longer. But the timeline's really compressed, so I think there is going to be, as part of these public engagement meetings, an effort to explain to everybody that this is a longer, much longer conversation that's going to kind of quickly culminate in something. So giving some thought as to what we actually want to present. I'm not envisioning these meetings becoming like a design charrette review where
You're going to the board at the first meeting.
we're going to the board to the first meeting. So in large part, the facility is going to be more or less
Here's what it is.
done. It is kind of what it is. So I think this public engagement will have to feel a little bit different in terms of we're educating, maybe answering questions on how and why the facility has landed where it is. And then if there are some things that really seem to make a lot of sense that aren't, massive catastrophic, not even catastrophic, massive changes, that those could potentially be incorporated. So I think a lot of the messaging that we'll all want to carry forward is, we did the 2014 survey. We've collected feedback in the past. This is the facility that we think best fits those needs. Because I think naturally people think community engagement, they're going to want to come in and chime in on the design and see potential design changes.
I suspect that many people are going to question how we're going to coordinate the usage of
Correct.
the part that is already there with the new one.
I agree.
That's probably.
And cost,
And
I would
cost.
think, is going to be the big one. If the design is largely nailed down, people are going to want to know, okay, well, if you have the design, what's going to be the cost? Not just total cost, but the cost to me as a, what is going to be the, the general idea of what the ballot question
Yeah.
is going to,
I
be
agree.
the percentage or whatever, mill levy, whatever it's going to, I don't know, do we even know? I assume it's a property tax.
It'll be a property and sales tax is what we're
Yeah.
talking about potentially.
And they're gonna wanna know what the fees are gonna be.
And you're right. I mean, I think the big ones are,
The two biggest things are,
yeah,
what's the
how,
total number?
how much is
Yeah,
it gonna
what's the
cost, how
tax
much
and
my
what's the
membership, what's
membership?
inside,
What's the
Right.
benefit for
and what's
me
the
to
benefit
raising
for
my
me?
property
Yeah.
taxes,
And,
basically.
and when?
and when.
When's it gonna be done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, and all doable, and we're cracking away at it, but this is a tight timeline.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're, as a group, gonna wanna be pretty on point with what the message is and making sure that we all have, the elevator speech ready to go. And that's honestly, what we're working on almost from the time we get here till the end of the day kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, I think because the last time we discussed this, we had the 18-month plan.
we did, you're correct,
We
that
had
is
the
correct.
18 months, sat down and went through, okay, this is what we have to have done by, so, and we're squeezing it now, so.
Okay, so the design. The way we left the meeting last month was, it seemed like the committee was in agreement that we probably want to have a plan A, design A, and a design B. So design A is this. And design B was something along the lines of the second floor, maybe some pool changes, but like the lazy river come out, that was the main one and we would maybe be able to do a few things with the lazy river gone. But on the second floor, have only one basketball court, move the exercise area down to that front basketball court, basically. And then that third floor be entirely community space.
Yep.
So if we're still in general agreement on that, it's then the specifics of what people's ideas are. I guess now's the time to throw them out to Patrick so that they can work on a second design. It's probably best that we just do the one at a time thing here. I don't know if we want to go one at a time for each floor or one at a time just and you spit out your comments on all three
However
floors.
you want to start. I will type. If you guys want to, feel free to kind of scroll around, move around, and I'll capture as much. Corey, if you kind of do the same, we'll compare notes at the end.
I only have 4 lines of text.
That'll be great.
To abbreviate.
Good luck.
Break away.
4 very short lines.
All right, so who wants to go first? Anyone ready?
Well, John.
I've got my drawings. I'll go first if that's what I want to do.
Navigating this thing, would you do it?
I can do it.
I can't see that.
So my idea on the pool level is if we remove the lazy river, remove that infinity pool.
Is that this right here?
Yeah. Then if we can kind of move the pool a little bit more to the bottom of the, the front of the building and give us some, maybe a little bit more deck space around the pool itself.
So you're talking
Then-
about shifting all this down,
Yeah, just
kind of centralizing a little more?
pulling it, yeah, get it more center on the floor plan. Then I was thinking that rather than having a small sauna in each locker room, on that back wall, you could have a sauna and a steam room that's accessible to everyone, not just to the locker room, exclusively a men's sauna and a women's sauna. You have a sauna and a steam room. Then with a little bit more deck space around the pool, you might be able to get in like a diving board, a small slide, some of those things that if the pool isn't totally open to lap swimming, you could have, say, 2 or 3 lanes for lap swimming, and then the rest of it's kind of open swim, and you would have an area where you could have, diving board, slide. Sometimes you see the rec centers that have like the little climbing wall on the edge of the pool or like a rope swing, and they usually have only one of those operating at any given time. So it's like part of the pool is closed off so that one of those things could be going, the diving board, the slide, whatever it be. But at least you have a little bit more general use, non-lap swimming use of that pool. And then the room that you have left in the front, because you would still have, I think, plenty of deck space in the front, you could do like a hot tub, because that's one thing that's not here. And again, you would be able to get a little bit more general use. It's not just a kiddie pool and a lap pool. You would be able to, have parents use the hot tub when the kids are swimming in the big pool type thing. That was my idea on the pool level. On the second level, just like I said, take out a basketball court, move that whole exercise area from the third level down. I didn't measure it, but it looked about roughly the same amount of square foot area for the exercise area on the third floor as what would go in there. And I would say you put the exercise area on the front side of the building, so you would hopefully have windows at looking out and get a lot of natural light in there. And then that brings to the third floor, pretty much leave that whole front area the way it is. So that big, community room has dividable space and can be divided up into 4, opens up onto the patio, all the same general idea there. that center area where you have the offices and everything, I thought that, and I don't know if you can actually fit this, but my idea is you take out that senior room, and you do on that right side, you just have a catering kitchen. And then on the left side, you just have the restrooms. And in between that, a little bit bigger than those offices obviously would be, you have some type of performance space. So like a very small kind of theater would be a low stage, tiny backstage area, low stage, not permanent seating, most likely just, movable seats. And that way it can be used for lots of things. It would be a fairly open room. It can be used, you could potentially have meetings or something in there, but yeah, you could have different type of arts, performance, activities. Maybe you could even have a drop-down screen. You could have like movies in there, some kind of general purpose like art space. And then that whole back area that was the exercise area, a combined teen senior space. I have a fairly elaborate drawing here, but basically like you would have in the center, you would have a general like kind of living room space, TV, seating, like billiards tables, ping pong tables and stuff. And then on the back, you would have like a computer lab classroom, a study room, and then on either side, you would have that what's more dedicated teen space and dedicated senior space. So the senior space would be kind of like a dining area. So if you did like what Louisville does, like the breakfast, what they do, like breakfast, lunch, something like that. So you have, if you can have the catering kitchen provide at least some level of meal service, you have a dining area, you have game tables, living area. It's a space for senior gathering, and then dedicated for them. And then they would also have access to that shared like living room space in the middle. And then on the other side, you would have teen space, and that's more like, again, a little bit of a living room area, maybe some video game like station areas. And I'm thinking it would be really great if you could have like a music room.
I email you something, can you pull it up?
Like a
Yep.
like a soundproof band room. So like
Are you kidding me?
piano.
I'm sitting next to him at work.
If kids are in bands and they want to practice somewhere other than their garage, have like a proper room. I've seen this in teen centers before. Not big, like a 10 by 15 room or something like that. But that's my idea.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull.
Trust me, we'll all be able to understand what Peter just said if we get to see that diagram.
I meant to scan these and I didn't get around to it. I did this at like 12 o'clock last night. So
Just give me 1 second. I'll get it right there.
The offices there somewhere?
well, I was thinking that the whole thing on the side where it was like treatment rooms, I don't really understand why we had all those like PT rooms. Like those could be the offices.
Sorry, I don't know where the mouse went.
I thought it was because we had used up their existing space somewhere else.
I mean, some of that would need to be worked out. If that was like in lieu of like we were giving impact space back, we'd have to figure out
No.
how that. Maybe all this is not going to fit. You're right. I mean, but are there other corners that we could put office space, not smack in the middle of the floor plan? I'm sure there are.
Peter?
Peter's third floor.
Can you
So we've
use,
got Corey's trail and Peter's third floor.
can you just use the pointer when you're talking about this too, because it's kind of
Can
hard
you
to
rotate
follow.
it to the right? There you go.
Thank you.
That matches up the same now.
Yeah.
I don't have a pointer.
Here, I got one.
Here's-
Going in there?
Oh, here it is. Sorry. They have their own taste now. They used to be in there. Okay, so again, this stays basically the same as the existing design. Then in here, restrooms, catering kitchen, this would be like your performance space. So you just have like a small stage with a little backstage area and then just kind of open. This would not be permanent fixed seating. It would be like a more comfortable version of these chairs. You can get those more padded folding chairs. It may or may not need like steps up. So you, if you did have seating, at least like, you know, you're 8 inches above the row in front of you or something like that. I don't know.
Could that double as that music space you were talking about too?
Could possibly. Yeah, I mean, would end up being a programming piece, sure. I mean, because like what I thought was the music room I had, like, you kind of tuck it back in the corner. So like this is your kind of shared living room space. So you just have a bunch of like, you know, billiard, ping pong tables, kind of a living room area with a big TV, some game tables. I was thinking that between the billiard tables and stuff, you have like little like counters with stools and a bunch of charging stations for the people can, because that's always comes up. So then like your kind of senior space, again, neither of these are overly large because you have the kind of common space, but you know, you could still have a dedicated senior space, like a dining area, a living area, and then teen space, same kind of living area, maybe some little like cubicle things for video games and stuff. And then in the off of the shared space, you would have kind of a quiet room, like a study area, and then a little bit of a computer lab that could double as like a classroom. So say it has like a dozen computers, as well as like a conference table and a board and a projector and everything. So like you could have multi-use in both of those rooms. But like the study room, does anyone know like at the Louisville Library, like that, how they have like those little rooms on the second floor, and they have like the different, like that one bigger one has like a fireplace, and like I'm thinking something like that, like a little quiet room. People can go in and read. They can still be in the community center, but they don't have to be like reading out where someone might be playing like billiards or something. So.
What's the room to the far upper left?
What upper left?
To the left of the computer lab? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the music room.
Oh, gotcha.
Like a little soundproof like room.
Okay.
That you could make racket in and not be too disturbing.
Now you think that music room will be for classes or free use?
I think it could be a combination. I mean, it would probably be reserved space. So if you had like a piano or something in it, sure, people could probably reserve for like music lessons. But it also could be like, you know, if teenagers have a band and like their parents don't want them playing in the garage. I mean, it's kind of like a safe space, somewhat soundproof with, you know, I don't know if you would actually have some equipment available, like a drum set and amplifiers, so they don't have to haul all that equipment around. Like you have a certain amount of equipment available to them.
I think that sounds very cool, but I'm not sure about, like, if you leave equipment there for free use of kids, if they're gonna use it for like just playing around more than.
Well,
I mean,
they wouldn't. You wouldn't have the other than a piano. It would be bring your own instrument. You would have to bring a guitar and plug it into like the. Yeah, it's not just like it's not meant for like if someone just wants to go in there and just smack around the drums. Yeah. It's like just for fun. I mean, it's meant for more as a reservable programmed space.
No, I think it's a great idea.
I was going to say I like the idea of the performance space because I could see that being used for a lot of different purposes, you know, lectures, meetings, other things.
Right. I mean, like if like so, say the you know, the senior programming wanted to have some type of lecture seminar. That would be a more appropriate place than just like the general, like, you know, living room area or
I would
something.
think that impact sports would might like that too, all the PT presentations, or, you know, that might be a little.
Yeah, it could be,
Space for
it
them
could
as
be a
well.
truly multi-use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would the computer lab have like private cubicles? Or are you?
It all depends on space, I think. I mean, none of these rooms are overly large
Mhm.
because you're trying to cram in a lot of stuff, so probably not. It's probably just gonna be like, you know, a row of computers, like a business center at a hotel type thing.
Mhm.
But the room itself is closed off.
Mhm.
It's not out in the open, so.
I'm just catching up there are these 4 blocks up front here.
Right, so this was,
You know.
this is in the original design, which we kind of went over more at length last time. So this is like basically one giant community room, like say a 150 to 200 person room that opens out to a balcony
Okay.
on the 3rd floor. So the idea would probably be it's all kind of like glass, a lot of view out to the flyers. And then it has these retractable walls that divide it into 4
Gotcha, okay.
individual rooms. So when it's not being used as like a 200 person space, it can be divided into like, you know,
Smaller.
30 to 50 person rooms. And each one had like a little, I didn't put that detail, each one had a little like storage closet, so that they could put materials in there, chairs or whatever, tables.
And that room will have amazing views because it's facing west.
Right,
And so it should be really nice.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Since Peter has gone through all this work, do you think it's a good idea that we try to make the second design out of this, or instead of everyone
Well,
saying, "I want
it's
this,
open to everyone's comments, right?
Yeah.
So if,
Yeah.
Nuria's asking, can we just use this as the second design and maybe make small changes to it? Or does everyone want to have other ideas?
I mean, instead
I-
of saying everything different for every
Yeah.
floor, which would be very
Sure,
long,
I mean,
just say,
if
okay,
you,
what do we change of this?
if you want to make comments based on my design, that's fine. But if someone has any other grand ideas, then, you know, go for it.
I wouldn't say I have grand ideas, but I really like what you put together, you know, pending how the space actually works. I especially like the thought of having kind of a dedicated hangout space for seniors, as well as for teens, but I think it's important for seniors to feel like they've got a place where they can just sort of go and connect with who's ever there, as opposed to waiting for a programmed event to happen. I really like that idea.
And just a little background why I put it as like somewhat shared space between teens and seniors. I've actually had this idea for years because for the most part, they're using them at different times of day. So why do you need a full dedicated space for groups that are only going to use it like half the day, for example? So, you know, your seniors are going to use it more in the mornings and early afternoons. Your teens are going to use it more in late afternoon, evenings. Granted, weekends, you're going to have some overlap. And that's why I think you still want some dedicated space for each age group.
So I actually like what you have on the 3rd floor. I think it works out pretty good, and you've given it a lot more thought. From all the things you were talking about, if we could go to the 1st and 2nd floor.
Who has it?
Patrick.
Patrick's got it again.
So am I missing it? So, you know, with what you're proposing by moving the big pool, is there still a kiddie pool? There would be no kiddie pool at all, right?
You wouldn't have a dedicated
Yeah,
kiddie
smaller
pool. You
pool.
would just add some more like kid-friendly amenities to the lap pool.
Yeah, but, you know, where you have, I guess I would still want to see some kind of shallower 6-inch, 8-inch type kid pool, not something that you would have to have the parents in, and a deeper pool with the kids. That's something that they could actually sit and splash and play with each other. So,
The lazy river didn't even have that.
Right,
So,
but-
yeah.
but it doesn't have to be very big. It's just something, that, because whenever you go to any pool, you see the smaller kids who are, 3 or less are in that type of pool versus the bigger pool. And it makes sense to me. But other than that, I do kind of like about giving it more space and being able to have the hot tub and whatnot. The only other thing is where you were talking about potentially splitting up the 2 basketball courts, one on the first floor and one on the second floor. I would almost argue a little differently. Keep the 2 together where they would make sense, I guess, on the second floor there. And then the rec space that you were talking about from the third floor, move that to the space that you opened up in the first floor, because you're going to have the basketball noise. You're going to have folks going from one court to the other court. And invariably, they're going to be,
No, so
you're going to be going back between courts.
this only has 1 court. The second
No, that's
design-
one downstairs. Okay,
Currently, there's
one's
2
existing.
courts on the second floor.
right.
The other one's existing. So what I'm saying is you remove 1 court entirely
From the second floor.
from the second floor.
Right.
Yeah.
But so there would be 2 on the second floor, 1 on the first floor, right?
No, it would be 1 and 1. It would be
No, no.
existing on the first
That one's
floor
existing.
and a new one on the second floor.
Right. What I'm saying is can you repurpose that existing one on the first floor, keep 2 on the second floor together, and then put the,
That's Impact Sports.
oh, is it Impact? Okay.
Yeah. That's
All right.
theirs.
Peace.
Well, it's a large, so they have it, it's kind of like what, Lakeshore used to be.
They got the side courts.
1 full size, but broken up into, what was it, 2 or 3?
Yeah.
like-
I thought it was 2, but okay.
Right. And if you keep both basketball courts on the second floor, you lose half of that community space on the third floor.
Yeah.
Because currently in design A, the third floor
No, peace.
is,
Those 2 basketball courts is a huge space grab.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
It's just, I've seen where you split up basketball courts and it just, now you've got twice the noise and twice the area of the basketball, and it just doesn't flow as well. So that'd be my only other recommendation, I guess. So.
And real quick, to Corbett's point, so we actually just recently met with the aquatics designer, and they said the same thing. You gotta remember the zero entry, the lazy rivers tend to sell membership far greater than a lap pool. And they actually had some pretty strong opinions about lap pool design. So that is something feedback that we heard from the aquatics designer and the aquatics consultant that we were working with.
I'd like to hear more about that, because what was their opinion about the depth of the lap pool? And do
Yeah.
they have,
The depth of it?
Yeah,
There
like
was,
it-
it just comes down to cost. Actually, on what we were looking on this one was a moving floor. So you can have variable depths, so you can hold meets. Their point is kind of like North, the majority of the use on your pool from a recreational standpoint is always in your shallow end. So in terms of membership sales, which will drive largely the cost, the offsetting cost of the building, their thought is making sure that you've got, plenty of recreational features in there.
because, I mean, just being a swimmer, and this is what I do. Personally, I spend a lot of time at all these different rec centers, and from a, I mean, certainly you want memberships, but then you also want to be able to rent out the facility as well. That brings big bucks. I mean, VMAC is rented out through 2019 at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one thing I would think about with a lap pool like that is depth for other sports, whether it's water polo or synchronized swimming. There's a real dearth of availability for those types of sports as well. So then all of a sudden your lap pool becomes a multi-use pool as well. And I personally would love to see some sort of seating available. Like most of the high school gyms now have a wall of bleachers that can pull out.
there are
And
bleachers.
There's
Is that in
seating
there?
on there.
On the
yeah.
right, on that right side,
Yeah.
That whole,
That whole thing is,
Yeah, and then I want to
Features.
say that with the moving floor, I think we were talking 9 foot depth was ultimately, I think, what we were looking at,
yeah,
you know,
well,
'cause-
but if you
Yeah,
did a
that's what it
diving
is.
board, you have to go deeper than that.
right.
right.
So
And
you
the
remember
moving
too that
floor,
we're
what-
already going down, we're already digging down to make the floors work.
Mm-hmm.
We're already digging down close to 8 feet. So that's definitely something to kind of keep in mind. The pool's what's driving the cost right now up. So,
Yeah. Well, but the movable floor just seems prohibitively expensive.
the price that we got from Councilman Hunsaker, who's the aquatics designer, was like an additional 150,000. So we
But
thought.
what about like maintenance and like all that stuff?
We've
Like,
got that
is
kind
it-
of
is it gonna
factor.
last
We
as
have that.
long as a-
You know, I don't know. I mean, we've got maintenance right now of the facility between 700,000 and 800,000 annually.
I like that idea. And as far as, I mean, I think both for seniors and for kids, and for Impact, working with Impact Sports, I know, you know, a lazy river is used a lot for rehab as well with seniors, so, I do think that keeping that in some way is probably an important piece.
I think some of the concern was the size of the lazy river, because there
Yeah.
isn't that much like, you know, space
Deck space.
just around deck space. So
And
maybe
it-
maybe having the lazy river, but just shrinking it a little bit.
Well, but as it
Or
is,
s-
it's already a fairly small
Yeah.
lazy river.
Or simplifying the design, like the island. Is that an island in the middle?
Yeah, well, you always have
It's
some
all-
type of.
Yeah, cause
island.
you know what
Oh,
Rec Center
okay.
actually did a nice job with that was the, Lafayette Rec Center actually did a really nice job with their lazy river and,
Well, they
won
have the
awards for
slide
that
in the
slide.
middle,
Mhm.
yeah, they have the
Yeah.
slide in the middle of lazy
Cause,
river.
and they never touch their lap pool.
Right.
Their lap pool stays a lap pool, and unless they close it for the diving board and the swing,
Yeah,
the rope swing.
Yeah,
I think they did a better job on their rec center than.
But if I recall, that's a much larger.
yeah, cause
Kiddie
then
pool that
they have a
is-
large kiddie
Right,
pool as
yes.
well. In
Right.
addition to the lazy river slide and lap pool, they have a large kiddie pool.
Right.
Haven't been there in a while, but,
It's actually, Lafayette
Yeah,
is
it's
actually
bigger.
quite, for the age of it, it's actually quite a good design.
Yeah, it is a good design.
For the space, I mean, clearly there's other rec centers that have much more space than Lafayette, and therefore they get some nicer amenities. But for the space that Lafayette has, they
Yeah.
actually have a fair amount of use,
Yeah.
different uses.
And I guess looking at the other rec centers that are around Louisville, Lafayette, Broomfield, and including Lifetime, I look at this whole complex and I think, are we trying to be too much for too many people? In the sense that, I mean, with Impact Sports, I mean, we're really, that whole facility with the hockey and the Impact Sports and a really great lap pool, I mean, that's really becoming a sports complex versus, I think, a kiddie pool. I don't know, it's just, that just comes to mind, having been in this space for a long time. I can see the need for a lazy river. I don't know, I don't see the other places getting used that much, but I could be wrong.
Well, we were discussing it last time. The two basic things that came up about this was how much space, how much walking space between the pools and the bathrooms. Was that discussed at all, Patrick, about with the pool people, about the fact that those are relatively small locker rooms?
Oh, yeah, and that was brought up by the board too.
Yeah.
Is the locker
There's
rooms
one
will have,
concept we
locker rooms will have to get bigger.
When we were discussing the concept of the pool, one of the thoughts was you get rid of the lazy river, you expand the bathrooms.
Yeah.
The locker rooms.
Right.
Because I know right now we got them, that was I still go back to that as my primary concern with this concept is, you know, you can't have everything, so,
Yeah.
but you gotta have locker rooms. There's no point in having a pool if you don't have a decent locker room.
That was a
And
request
it doesn't
from
have
the
to be
board.
huge, but it's gotta be at least manageable. And I know we've got them on 3 floors here, and so that's one thing I think we have to focus on is, you know, what exactly you're gonna fit in here. And that's where the lazy river kinda goes, because we pretty much accept the fact that the laps pool is gonna be there. So how can you best use, and that's when, you know, Peter's thoughts about the, you know, something here, something there, and concept of maybe a kiddie pool, maybe a better option than the lazy river, I don't know. So that's my thoughts on this floor.
Anyone else have thoughts on the pool level?
Pool level?
Yeah.
On this
Yeah,
level?
Since we're pretty well covered the pools, anyone else have thoughts on the pool at this point? And then we'll just.
For me, the only other thing would be definitely removing that infinity pool and potentially adding a hot tub and pulling the saunas out of the locker rooms and getting one sauna, one hot tub somewhere on the pool deck
Yeah, I like
space.
that idea too.
You know, and if you could get that, and I'm not really sure how to work the kiddie pool because it is a attraction
It
for a
definitely
lot of
helps.
people. But on the other hand, there's just a lot of, it's all just kind of tight on this level. And to get the number of lanes and the seating, you know, the seating, I'm a little concerned about the seating and actually being able to see the event. There's bleachers, but you have that egress stair in the way. Gotta be a way to open that up a little bit, maybe move the egress stair to the front.
Well, that's
If we're
why if
gonna
you
move the
also
pool-
shift the pool more to the front of the building, it comes more in line with the bleachers.
Right.
But-
And then that gives you the more locker room or sauna and everything else, but it definitely removes the pool, the kiddie lazy river in the front.
Right, yeah.
So you get the one or the other. Or you get all your lockers, your main pool, but no kiddie pool. And then you're basically at a fitness facility and not a space for family and kids and activity and play. Because that's where I look at, you know, as a younger kids, you can have them play in the pool, but then you can go and do other things within the building. So that's a draw if you can continue to have that multi-generational utilization of the building.
Right.
I'm not being very familiar with the second level either, I don't know, you know, that, with regards to pools and viewing, that's also an option, is to put seating on the second level so that you don't have any seating on the first level. But I don't know
Well,
what the second level looks like, so.
That'd be all bleachers just for that.
for
Just
that.
on that one little side over there, it'd be bleachers.
But then you're saying that the whole middle of the second level is open to the floor below, right?
Yeah, we don't, it's,
And that, I mean, you're,
Gotcha, yeah. Well, a portion of it is, yeah,
Yeah.
right, I'm thinking of CU,
Yeah.
they used to have that, where a portion of it was.
Okay.
could
See down.
I guess I'd just like to add, to go on record as agreeing with Corbett, that I think whatever happens with the lazy river, or whether it fits or not, I do think it's important to offer some kind of pool space for moms and potentially dads with little kids, so they can just kind of go in the middle of the winter and have a place to hang out that's fun and safe for them.
yeah. Okay. So.
If we move up, I would say the concept that you put together on the, because we've always discussed actually just the terminology, community center over rec center. I like the concept. I mean, I'm not sure, you know, your ideas are good. I like them. They're all definitely community involved. And I think that's the way we need to go with the third floor. But I am torn on the basketball courts because the two
So-
courts, you know.
are we moving to the second level one?
Yeah, I was just kind of
Just go to
jumping
the
around
second.
to the second
Perfect.
level.
Keep going, keep going, I don't wanna.
Yeah, you
Patrick,
broke
can you
it.
slide
I'm
up?
done.
No, you're not, come on.
So yeah, I'm because I know we discussed about the area over to the left. If that's where we could put the physical therapy stuff that they had on the top floor, and I just hope we can continue to work on the concept of that third floor being community. That would be my say on that. What we do with this floor, I mean, I think you can go any way with it. So it's just going to be a matter of, you know, you're going to have your basketball people like me that are going to want to see two courts there, so there's always place to play. So you can have leagues, you can have other open games, you can have a variety. But then what do you do with the third level, which currently now has some form of recreational activity? So again, it comes down to space versus what we really, really want. So, or really, really need is kind of. So I would also be in favor of having, if we have to get rid of a court to make the third floor community center more community, then I would be in favor of that. I guess what I'm trying to get at. So.
Well, and for me, I'd just say that, you know, really we were looking for a basketball court and now we're getting 3. You know, from a community center and what we really wanted and what we felt was required within that space. And I do agree with Corbett that, you know, if you can keep them both on the same level, you have a pickup game on one and you're shooting on the other one, you know, you got that. But it definitely adds a lot of cost to renovate what they currently have in there and make that your exercise space. But that's, you know,
It's a wish list, not a deal breaker.
Well, and if
Is there-
anything, they, you know, you would be, yeah, I mean, you would, that space is almost too big for the exercise
That's
area.
what I was gonna say.
If you just remove the existing Impact Sports basketball court, you actually end up with a ton more space than you really need.
It's
Yeah.
very high.
but it definitely gets into that impacts operation and everything else. So,
Well,
I mean,
right,
think
and
we're
I don't
really
know that they're gonna agree.
within the box
Right.
Yeah.
of the new construction, and they're doing some small renovation for the locker room size.
Yeah, I don't know that that space is really in play.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, from an overall, I think, you know, taking away one basketball court and still having two is more than adequate for the space. And maybe there's some way with how they program it, that there's the basketball or volleyball downstairs and then it's a shoot around upstairs more open. Or maybe the downstairs is open and there's leagues playing on the other one. So there's a programming element that I think you could make the two courts work if we feel that two courts is all we need.
Yeah.
And actually, the downstairs is a bigger than two anyway, because you can actually split that into another two small courts.
And where do we have equipment, or do we not have, like?
That's on the
playgrounds and-
next level up.
Okay.
Currently, I guess.
Well,
Patrick,
right,
can you flip up to the
on
third
this
level?
design, it's on the third level.
Because you haven't really
The
seen
idea is
Yeah, I
you'd
said
remove
something.
the basketball court in front, and that whole open space is
Uh-huh.
exercise area.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah,
So really, on this
PT
current
the
plan
left.
that's set forth, there's really only the community space or community room in the front. And in the back, there's a couple of the rooms on the far right over there were more, I think those weren't they like the teen room or something?
It was
A
a
senior
senior room and
Senior
a
room.
catering kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha, I didn't even realize that whole space was back there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so that huge space in the back is where all your exercise equipment is.
Okay.
And then they have some offices, but really the focus on this plan is really that exercise on that upper level. And then the one community room. So that's where I think Peter's, proposal is really, we talked about this last month, was removing a basketball court, taking all the exercise onto the second level. So you have pool on the first level, exercise and basketball on the second level,
Mhm.
and really that full community space on that third level.
I like that.
That is all about, multi-generational, teens, seniors, and just you could go up there and have, some party that you wouldn't be near any exercise. So if I had, whatever, an activity up there, I could have 50 people show up and we'd be upstairs and I wouldn't have basketball or exercise people walking in the same hall.
Yeah, no.
Other than
and-
in the entry door and the elevator, you
Yeah.
kind of isolate to an activity or a function up there.
And I think,
Could
I
have
mean,
a
your
re-
point is well
reunion or
taken
something,
too,
you know?
for music and computers and quiet rooms and dinners and things like that, you're, having a basketball court on that same floor, you're not gonna have an exercise equipment, you're gonna, it's not gonna be usable because you'll have so much noise interference with it. So, I like that idea of having a community room, just all be community on that third floor and everything else sports related down below.
Yep, and that's exactly
Yeah.
why we came to that
That's great.
general idea of removing the basketball court on the second floor
Mhm.
so that we can move this exercise room down to the second floor
Mhm.
and dedicate the third floor to community space, because there was that concern that, hey, this is not really a community space, it's more of a rec center.
Right.
And so by dedicating the third floor, you really have that, okay, yeah, we've got that community space focus that's not kind of mixed with, exercise or sports.
Right.
So that's where that whole discussion with removing that basketball court came into play. Yep.
Cool.
And I think
Yes,
one, go ahead.
I have one more comment for the second floor before we go to the third one.
Sorry.
So if we move one basketball court, what we were saying, I think the exercise part is gonna be pretty large, so maybe we can have like a room for, I don't know, those yoga or
Programmable rooms.
aerobics,
Well, or you
classes.
move that PT space on the third floor somewhere
If we have to have that PT
down there.
space.
So if you have to have that as like
Aren't
the-
those two back rooms on the top left right there?
That's what I thought.
Within
I thought,
Impact? Because I think they
Impact
were
was
still
those
shifting.
studios.
some of the things around.
If you go to the third floor now, there's this whole PT
Yeah,
space, which I was thinking, if you move the offices out of the middle, you got to put them over there, but then you don't have PT space anymore. So that something needs a home, either office space, PT space, something needs a home. But Naria's right. I mean, in this building, this new building, you don't really have like fitness rooms, like a yoga space, dance studio. That would be in the impact sports space. So again, you're talking about the shared space. Am I right, Patrick?
Right. So yeah, just so a little bit of context. Some of this design is still very much when this was partnership, and I think that a lot of that'll probably still need to be kind of worked out. I think, you know, so where we're showing the locker rooms here is that CrossFit space, which would have to go away. You'd reconfigure the entry, and then, you know, this is looking down on the basketball court. So picture this is open. This is the existing studio. So yeah, being able to accommodate somehow if they start to displace their staff. I mean, the other thought is you know, potentially with a different pool configuration, you don't tap in to the space. But it sounds like, I think where everybody's going is we want to maximize the lap lanes and add some kind of recreational aquatics feature. So yeah, I do think we need to be mindful of, if we displace some of their employees, we'll have to comp them that space back or provide that space back. And I think right now, we were showing it on the third floor, but
Yeah.
you have to maybe get it in on the second.
So if you go to the, so my
There's
idea was,
PT.
you know, these offices, could they go over here? But then you need to find a home for the PT, so can we find that on the second floor? Again, if this is all gonna be community space on the third floor, I mean, that would be an oddity to have those PT rooms there then.
But they could have their offices, or they're needing just desks and things like that. It's not work.
Treatment rooms?
It's not treatment rooms,
They've
it's
got
more-
treatment rooms.
Well, and I'm wondering too, like when Sheen and those guys open up their medical offices, are they, I mean, that would be a question to ask them if they're gonna be, putting a PT.
Yeah, so so the way that the partnership will be with the Rough Rider Sports Club. So Sheen's group's now kind of out.
Okay.
So there, at least what we've been told in our most recent meeting is who's in the building would plan to stay. And if you guys remember kind of dialogue from last month, you know, they're willing to lease back significant portions of the space up to the tune of, you know, like, I think the number was like like a little more than $500,000. And we kind of had the dialogue of, okay, that's great, but anytime you're leasing space back, that's less space that the public gets to access. So if they, you know, I'm sure we'd have to come to some kind of agreement. If we took PT space, I'm sure we would just give them that PT space back, or we would have to lease it back to them at a you know, a specified rate or something like that.
Yeah.
And same with the basketball court. The two basketball court design came about because, if you guys remember back to the very first board retreat, the board said, hey, Impact and Sports Civil, you guys design it to what you think best fits your business needs, and we'll react to that. Well, they added in the two courts. So I think, you know, now we're talking about a standalone building. Does two courts make sense? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So just keep that in mind. A little bit of this facility is still really married to when they were going to be the main financer and we were going to lease the space back over the 25 years. We've now switched to where the town's going to, this will be a town building, town run, town managed, town staffed, and then they would have to lease the space back from us. So that two basketball court design to me really kind of came about because they put in the what was supposed to be a temporary court on the turf, and it's blown up, right? So they could use court space desperately. And that's something to keep in mind. It's always great to offset your operating costs with the revenues, but the more you rent the space, the less the space is allowed to the general public, which is to Ray, your point earlier in Corbett, those are selling points we're going to need to be able to talk about to the public. So
one of the other questions I had is, as we're looking about all in one space, do we still have the discussion about the indoor space in another facility, or are we trying to get it all in here?
in terms of a separate standalone facility?
Yeah. 'Cause we had
The
that.
40,000, up to
40,000
40,000 square foot civic
I
space.
had to
Right,
bring it up
I think,
because
yeah, so I think that's,
I'm
it's
also
my
in
understanding the
basketball.
board would, their separate spaces, and that would be future community space as well.
So, in my mind, that's gonna be more like the library, and then are you gonna be able to do other stuff like more of those wet classrooms, like art classes, the stuff that we're not gonna be able to fit in here. Like,
Right.
there's still plenty of indoor amenities that we could use in this
Mhm.
town that are not gonna fit in this space.
It's funny, I was just thinking about that when I left Starbucks today because of that Land Rover site that's gonna be vacated soon.
Yeah, I
It's kind of
don't,
an interesting spot.
Tesla didn't win it, right? What are they gonna put there?
Yeah, Pat,
I'm thinking library and.
Peter,
all
can,
that sort
or
of
Patrick,
stuff.
can you show Peter's third floor design? I only
Sure.
have one more question on that. And it was basically, what is the largest space you could, or the largest, space that would be able to create from that if we're trying to do a big meeting, or somebody's trying to do a big meeting? Has it been broken up into too many small areas, or is there a?
I mean, you still have in the front,
It's the front
with the retractable, that was
Okay.
like, what,
Well, what's the
100?
size? I don't know the general dimensions. Is that-
I think we were looking at
Oh,
like being able to fit
200 people or
to
something, right?
a couple hundred.
I think it was almost 300, like 280. If I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It's pretty good size.
Okay.
Now talking about the third floor, I have some comments here. I think my major point with the third floor is that 200 or potentially 200 people room, which happens to be the one with the nice mountain view and all that, somehow I don't see it very much utilized all the time as a 200 people room. So what my thoughts were that we could let the senior people use at least the bigger one or the two of them on a regular basis. Whenever there is an occasion in which we need all of them, they can have the share space or like everything else. I mean, they can be okay. These 2 hours you cannot go to you don't have the room. But I think for the rest of the time, I think it's a waste to have those rooms with a nice view. I'm sure maybe they are utilized one, but I don't see all of them needed at the same time very often. So I think that's my major discrepancy with Peter's design. I think the other amenities are good. I'm not sure too much about too much sharing between youngsters and senior people. Somehow I don't see that working so well. But hey, they can use it sometimes, I guess.
I think pretty much everything you said is solved with good
It's an interesting 19 years.
is it comes just down to, it comes down to scheduling.
I guess the difference is, in my view, on my view, it would be, that's their room. They don't have to reserve it or we use it to, program anything. It's just their room. It's the other way around. Whenever someone needs the 4 rooms together, then we reserve it from them somehow.
Right. Okay.
Instead of, okay, yeah, they can go and reserve the room for this or for that, but just make it their home. I mean,
A quick comment. So I generally, I have the same general concern that the conference rooms, not conference rooms, but the rooms on the bottom there
Conference rooms.
might be underutilized. So as long as they're multi-purpose rooms that you can use for a yoga class or a meeting, so as long as, you know, for example, the carpeting is correct or tile, or whatever, the flooring is correct, so that it can really support, you know, multi-use, I think that's cool.
definitely, no.
Yeah, my guess is it'd probably be more, something more like a wood floor,
Yeah.
like a ballroom type space that then you close up again.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could have dance, you could have all, including, yeah,
Because I think if it's
everything
open
that's been said.
for meetings or for, you know, gym activities, then I think, not gym activities, but like, you know, programmable workout classes or whatever, I think you'll get good use from them.
I still would say that one of them, I will leave it for the senior people. Maybe I see myself too close to it.
Patrick, do you know about how many square feet is on each level? Just ballpark? Because I don't know, I mean, I'm just kind of, I agree with Peter's plan. I'm not really sure on, you know, the stage and the conference room. Because the stage is like a whole nother level of, are you coming to the, you know, gonna have a recital or something, you know, like, are you coming and getting, how many people are gonna be in there, like 50? And how often is that gonna be used?
Right.
You know, it's just another amenity where, you know, I go back and forth on the basketball court. You know, it's such a big piece that once you take one out, you can fit all the rec center, the weightlifting and things like that in there. But then on the next level, I'm questioning if we really fill it up with all community pieces, and if that ties into the 40,000 square feet of indoor space, that really we could utilize some of that there, and what are the next highest pieces. You know, I fully understand that our last kind of round of critical rooms was the conference rooms and the breakout space and meeting space, and I think that's still maintained in this one. I'm just not sure how much square footage are we really using for community.
16,000
On just that level?
I mean, it's a square.
Yeah,
Each floor.
and just those rooms up front are about 35.
Yeah.
So you're talking like another 12,000 square feet.
The fitness area is like 5 and some change, so it's a, you know.
It's a big space
Big space.
for a
So-
community room and like senior and teen space. I mean, they can fit in some small spaces. No, I mean, they'd be pretty comfortable in a room this big with some ping pong tables and, you know, foosball table and stuff like that. You know, how many kids are you gonna have in there? You know, yeah, maybe double this, but that's still it's not 5,000 square feet.
Well, but like, in my mind, just that common area is probably the size of this room.
Mhm.
And then you have a more dedicated senior space and teen space on either side, plus you have an almost equal amount of space divided up into 2 or 3 rooms for, you know, like music room, like classroom, quiet room. So you're talking like 4 of these rooms, basically.
Right.
Eh,
And then that's where I'm just trying to understand the scale and really on these plans and just how big that room is. I know you got it sketched out there.
That's not the scale though.
I know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
And bringing it up.
But that's why I'm trying to put some scale to it. In my mind, this is about the size of this room. And then each of these is probably a little bit smaller than this room, as well as the backspace is probably about the size of this room. So you're talking about 4 of these rooms. So what is this room? Probably 20 by 30, this room is? So you're talking about times 4, so 600 times 4, so
Go back to the first floor,
2,400.
Patrick.
It's much
30 by
bigger.
50.
You're, what you were saying earlier caught my
30
attention.
by 50.
So are we trading what's in the bathroom space now?
It's like 120.
Is that gonna be a trade-off that we have to give them
24 by.
something to replace where those bathrooms are going?
I think we'll have to work that out. I think we'll have to work that out. Because this is their CrossFit gym,
Right.
yeah.
So you can
So
And
the
this is-
concept is if we don't trade the third floor and give them
1,000
some of their
square feet,
PT they need, where are you gonna put the
talking
bathrooms?
about 4,000.
Right, I mean, I anticipate that if we were to like, you know, cut into their,
Right. yeah, so-
and I think the goal is still to try to
35
make
here
the
and
partnership
12,000
work.
Right.
here.
We just, honestly, I think we still just need to work all that out. Whether they pay it for us, I mean, because on the flip side, they're also getting much needed locker rooms that they need. I mean, so this is a
Sure.
benefit to them to sell membership as well. And I know that I just think we need to, through this process, you know, as we go along, figure
Well,
out the particulars. But there is going to be some kind of trade if we, you know, they've
Yeah.
got PT, they've got nutrition. They also have staff that if we, you know, if we still go with the concept of doing some kind of joint operating where they provide the fitness classes and the fitness instructors,
Yeah.
which makes sense because they have them. All those people need to be housed somewhere, which is why we started to show offices.
Yeah.
And then our thought is, you know, at a minimum, we're probably 3 to 4 more full-time staff just on the aquatics with another
Yeah.
12 to 15 year-round part-timers. And all those people need their required
Space, yeah.
spaces.
And maybe that's what fills out the third level, so you get the community and the
Yeah.
office type space up there. But I just want to make sure I'm not taking out a basketball court. I
Right.
put in the appropriately sized rooms, and all of a sudden I got half a floor plate left going, what do you want? I mean,
Yeah.
I just took out half of your space. And-
I think it can be filled fairly easily.
Well, I know I can, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, dollar and return on what we're getting and making sure that we're achieving the priorities that we want the community to vote on, and they're gonna feel comfortable paying X amount to get those amenities. And these amenities that are in here is what we've talked about previously, that was our need and want, within various surveys leading up to this.
Right.
So, to kind of get back on, we're kind of getting into very, very detailed discussions. Well, is this programmed for senior? Is this for that? I mean, this thing's going to go through multiple rounds, if it does get approved, multiple rounds of updates to an architecture before it's ever built. I think what we're trying to look at is, hey, what vision, what concept are we saying that we want to portray to the community? Say, here's one of the things we were thinking at, and you guys, we heard you guys loud and clear from the surveys that it needs to have this space. Check. You can see it on here. We have this type of space, and the philosophy is that this third floor is going to be really rec space for the community, not workout, but recreation to recreate. And we have ideas like you have a place for the seniors, and you have a place over here for the teens, and you have something where you can do these things. We're just kind of showing you ideas. It's not. I guarantee it's never going to look like how Peter drew it up, but it's the idea that we're trying to get across. If this is what we're trying to, that you're going to end up buying something like this for your money, that you have the first floor, which is this type of stuff, second floor, basketball, maybe some space, but this thing is going to be more community space. And anyway, that's where I'm envisioning in my head. That's why I'm not trying to argue all the puts and takes of what you said.
I'm just trying to get to the
Yeah.
point that I think we need to have a pretty solid plan and understanding, because people will dissect it and understand, like, I'm not getting what I want out of this, or does it have everything I want? And if not, they're not going to vote for it. And therefore, that plan has to be pretty solid. And once you approve it, I don't think you're changing it too much. I think you're refining it a little bit, but you're really trying to go with what the community voted on. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think that people are going to be locked in on certain aspects.
Well, yeah, and going on that, I think we sent a lot of stuff for Patrick to think about. And I think the bottom line is, as you guys are basically both just said, we have to figure out how we're going to sell this. If we're going to be the group that's going to have to sell this as the Park and Rec Committee, what are we going to try to sell, and can we sell it? And that's where I'm thinking, that's where my thought process is right now.
No,
And I think you said the same thing, it's the same principle.
right, I just want a graphic to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think the concept of community center and recreation center, or sports center makes sense. I think if you were to say this is a Town of Superior sports center, you're gonna get questions, because they're gonna say, oh, we already have the sports stable. So I think it makes, in my opinion, a lot of sense to say, yeah, it's a center that has both community facilities and sports facilities. And to Corbett's point, just generally speaking, right, first floor is aquatics, second floor is basketball and a very large exercise and multi-purpose area. And then the third floor is a multi-purpose community area that includes teen center, you know, senior space, ping pong tables, etc. So generally, I agree. I think that is, I think, appealing. Versus, you know, another dedicated sports facility.
So unless anyone has any specific additional design ideas, I think we have to move on. We still have like most of our agenda ahead of us, and it's already like 9:20. So we
So
need to try
I've
to
captured
fire
your
through.
bullet points, and I'll send Peter's attachment to an email that I'm just gonna hit send on right now.
I'll
Add to it.
send you all of them.
Add to it, and I would say by the end of, 2 days, if you guys can. Let's not stop the momentum, but over the next couple days, let's really kind of flesh this out. So you all have a email in your inbox from me.
And that's where somebody like Greenplay will be very helpful if they're at the next, not necessarily this meeting, but when we're talking about the day before, right?
All right, so 2019 budget, we need to start thinking about what budget recommendations we want to make to the board. So this would include anything from trails to, playground improvements. So at this point in time, the one that we are set to talk about later, whether we'll actually get to it, is Riverbend Park, the idea of would a playground go there? That would be something that, if we really thought that were to move forward, we should start considering that as a budget recommendation for next year. So items like that. I mean, this year we got skate park, pickleball courts, and the money to go towards, the indoor space discussion. That's what was, so we actually got quite a bit out of the budget this year. So will we get as much next year? I mean, that would be one question too. So, but the big one probably in my mind is trails. I mean, the trails don't have a dedicated funding. If we really want to see some trails happen, we need to put those forward, and ideally we put those forward in conjunction with OSAC as a budget recommendation to the board. They're not just going to happen without some type of
Didn't you say that there was a trail being developed right now? I thought there was one.
The Calmonte
Yeah.
one
Okay.
is, I mean, that's part of
So-
the
You also have
development.
the 30s, the McCaslin Underpass, Davidson Mesa Underpass Trail, the Dr. Cog
yeah.
Trail.
Yeah, okay.
So, and something to just kind of chew on and think about, Parks 1 and 2 and Coal Creek enhancements, and then potentially the operating cost of this facility. So something like this goes, in my opinion, there's probably not a lot left on the bone in terms of projects for a while. And then right now, any of the trail stuff that we had prioritized has moved over to Parks 1 and 2, just to kind of keep that. It doesn't mean you don't recommend anything, just know that that's kind of how things are shaking out now. Some of that stuff we had budgeted as trails is sitting, waiting for Parks 1 and 2 to get going.
But I think my point is that we don't really have any big projects that aren't already tied to something else.
Well-
That's you know, the indoor space will be tied to a ballot initiative. And any hope of getting a field, that's tied to Park 2 at this point. We're not talking about a field for anywhere else. We already are getting the skate park. So that's the thing. I mean, do we want to just shoot small next year? Like Patrick's saying is probably more reasonable. Are there any more we lost our $35,000 a year for the playground improvements. Do we just want to target a playground improvement next year as our budget request, or just a reasonable trail next year as a budget request? So everyone just keep that in mind for next month. You know, if you have any specific ideas, bring those.
And I'll, to add to Peter's point, I'll probably come to you guys at some point with the irrigation plan for Autry Park and the disc golf course.
That's a good point.
As like staff, one of my major requests. And I'll probably have some dialogue with you guys in terms of, does PROSTAC support it? Does PROSTAC not support it? So know that that's kind of, in addition to this, that's probably one of pros, you know, bigger requests will be to add irrigation over there, anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 maybe. So.
I know there is always a lot of things in the budget, but I think at some point we should consider to build more tennis courts, because we only have 4 tennis courts and the community is only growing.
Location is the big one.
Well,
with that.
And at some point we have to start thinking about it, because there's always
Well, I mean, it's been thought about a
the
lot.
building,
It's
the other-
that's the problem. Unless something like
there's new parks.
the town 15
Tennis facility.
moving.
remains in the town's hands and does not become an indoor facility, then you're talking about, yes, you would have space. Or if the disc golf course goes away entirely, then maybe you have space to do additional fields or courts. But right now, I mean, yeah, they don't have, with the exception of, we don't have a final look at Park 3. And originally, the developer had wanted to put a tennis court somewhere in there, if that is still floating around, but it's probably not a complex of courts. It's probably a court, 2 courts at most.
That could be
I think there was a pool there at one
possibility.
point too, so.
Another
There's an outdoor
possibility,
pool.
if we go to Richmond 15, like he said, it could be. I mean, that's an idea to do a tennis complex, and I keep thinking that if we could make at least a couple of those courts, either with a bubble, I know that we talk about bubble with the pool, but either with a bubble or something indoor, that could probably be a business with income for the town more than
Right.
an expense.
Are there any municipalities that have covered tennis courts that aren't in the mountains, like in Breckenridge or somewhere?
Boulder?
Arvada just did.
So this is
Just
The
yeah,
Arvada
South,
Center
where it used to be the
just
Yeah.
built.
That's right.
I haven't been there, but I've heard that they have like 6 or 7, or I mean, something amazing.
Really? Okay.
That's what they told me.
Okay.
Patrick, so the, was it Tara? Tasha?
Tasha.
Who came earlier. Anything if we did to the dog park, would that be you guys, or would that be something that we would recommend? I mean, the overall, you know, if we started looking at that and there was a recommendation, would that be something?
I would ultimately probably look for your guys' support, just because there's, you know, it's a park, and
Right. It's
we
a park.
have, you know, so to the shade discussion's the big one, right? We have shade issues at all of our parks, and I'm sympathetic to all of them. So prioritizing shade down there, which we could agree to, is a great thing to do. I would just probably want to make sure that it works in whatever other discussions we're having about, you know, did we ever achieve getting shade at South Pool Playground, which was the other one we were getting a lot of complaints about. But I think doing those kind of requests together. On the maintenance side, though, you know, changing a fence configuration or filling in potholes, that we would just eat in our maintenance budget. But adding amenities, I kind of like the idea of keeping you guys in the loop and at least engaging in the conversation with you guys.
Yeah, so, I kind of, not that I feel guilty, but I've never really, until she brought it up, considered that really a park, but it is a park. And so it's something that we should definitely consider. And she had a good point in the sense that, one of the things I thought of is, kind of what we're talking about for the overall archery area is having kind of a master plan for that whole area. Well, the master plan for that dog park too, if we're just throwing nickel and diming it, throwing here and there, does that really work? So anyway, so that may be something to think about if it's a smaller thing to just look at how to, and the reason why I'm actually really considering it right now is, we do have a known issue with off-leash dogs in other areas, and if it's something that we could do to maybe enhance that or work on that a little bit to help combat that. I know that the people are going to do what they're going to do, but
Well, no, but I just want to say one thing about the dog park. I don't discount anything that she said, but the dog park is only, 6, 7 years old, right? And it's already had a fair amount of money put at it since then, not just in the town's maintenance. We put the restroom in there, which cost a lot. When we were talking about the shade structures and we ended up just doing those covered tables, one of those went in the dog park. It didn't go at like a playground or anything. And the town does put a significant amount of maintenance in there. So to do like anything grand there, I mean, we certainly do have to start weighing like how much has the dog park gotten in the last 5 years compared to any other park. There aren't many parks that are only 5, 6 years old where we've thrown additional money at them. And we have already done that with the dog park.
And if you look at it, we went back to the park analysis when I first got on the committee a while back, and there was, ADA issues in parks and, some of the just maintenance within the tot lots and things like that. And, we looked at all the parks, but honestly, we never really had the dog park on there from an analysis standpoint because it was only a couple years old.
Yeah, but we've talked about it even in other things. We've talked about lighting the dog park. I mean, we've had numerous, maybe only Ron and I were around for that one. But there's been, but the dog park is certainly not forgotten in our discussions. I mean, maybe it hasn't come up in the last year or so, but in any great way. But we've certainly, and even one of the amenities I think is an agility course in the dog park. That's on our list. So it's certainly been in the mind of PROSTAC all along. It's just a matter of, we have to weigh all the parks, all the different things that we could spend money on.
But I think, some of the things that she brought up could be fairly easy to make minor adjustments to improve the park.
Yeah.
I mean, I say minor adjustments and you put in a bench and it'll be about $5,000 or something.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm even thinking like the
Exactly.
shade, you could probably put up post and shade sails there, and it's gonna be a lot cheaper than covering the entire structure at the South Pool, but you're still probably talking $10,000-$15,000 would be my guess, just to do that, just to put the posts in and put up the shade sails like you have at the North Pool or something.
Yeah.
It's not, nothing is cheap.
So insurance covered it, but just as a point of reference, we were 40-some thousand into the replacement shade structures at the North Pool.
Yeah.
Just because you do, and anything now, I mean, you guys have heard me say over and over and over, I mean, our posts have to be 12 feet, 12 feet deep and reinforced with concrete because we have to be able to withhold the winds, so.
I think just a quick comment. I think her point, I think the main point that there's one dog park for the entire community is valid because there's many other parks, but there's one dog park. So yeah, I agree. We've invested in it, and it's a fairly new park. But I think keeping it within our focus and not forgetting about it, and listening to public comment about how it can be improved. I made a list of some of the things she mentioned. To your point, I think many of these are minor things that can be easily fixed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point's valid that there's one dog park that's heavily used by the entire community. Versus adding an extra this there or an extra that there. There's still only one dog park. I think we could easily use 2 or 3. But I think if we have one, then we need to make sure that we don't forget about it and that we make sure that it's maintained and make sure that it meets the dog owner needs.
Yeah, there's even been the discussion of additional dog parks. I mean, it's certainly, it's good that we continue to talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
I was actually thinking even more of the sense that, I wasn't around when the dog park was made, but I don't know how much it was consulted when the dog park was created about, you know, the design of it and the flow of it was developed for a city this size that's still growing, or was it like, yeah, we just need an area, you know, for a dog park? I mean, was it actually did we consult with an expert group or not? That's kind of where I was thinking of, you know, even if we had someone look at it and evaluate a consultant to say, hey, is it still fit the needs of the community, or?
There was extensive
There was.
research, and people were brought in, and
yeah.
it was built just before I got on here, but there was a lot.
Yeah, I was only here towards the end, like when it was basically being finished, so I wasn't actually part of the planning part, but I do know from Jim Payne, who was the chair at that time and heavily involved. I mean, both the dog park and the disc golf course had a fair, you know, consultants and like, you know, known people in their respective industries involved in their planning. They weren't just, you know, put up a square fence and let the dogs run and, you know, put up a couple baskets and throw a disc. I mean, there was a lot of thought, a lot of planning put into those.
I think too, just to kind of quickly clarify, a lot of the comments that we received were based around us trying to figure out how to keep it green, right? With us putting in temporary fencing and trying to funnel use, right? And we missed the mark. We got feedback from some people, and you'll get a couple of them that are like that idea, but you know, the fencing that is being discussed, that's temporary fencing because we can't keep the center alive. And taking out the pea gravel was a very specific request because people didn't like all the dog feces that was left around, and we heard a lot of comments about not being able to clean it up, and so we replaced it. And pea gravel's a maintenance nightmare, and we were spending a lot of time dealing with the pea gravel. So on the flip side, you put in sod, but then that sod dies like the rest of the sod dies. So the good thing is it's a little bit like the baseball field situation in Williams Field. It's being loved to death. And when it gets loved to death, the maintenance is hard to keep up with. And we can definitely prioritize it different, but the problem is you prioritize that and then something else, you deprioritize something else. And it's just a balance. But I think the design is still a great design.
To go to Jock's point, though, unfortunately, it's not for Superior. It's for Louisville. It's for Broomfield. It's for everybody. Because if you go to the little one in Louisville with the lake, there's no grass there.
That's what I
We've
remember.
heard about all the problems of the one up on McCaslin. I mean, there's more people at that park from non-Superior than there is from Superior. That's the reason why it's getting loved to death.
And I've requested in the budget every 5 years, $40,000 to replace the sod. And that was in the budget last year because it's, and you want it to be special. We want it to be the best dog park around. And to do that, you gotta, spend money. So, and some of those changes, the fence, we could take the fence down. Absolutely, it could be down this week. The grass still hasn't grown, which causes some concerns on the flip side, but if a fence is causing bigger issues, it's just easy enough for us to take the fence down. So.
Okay, so Coyote Ridge Trail maintenance, real quick, Patrick, what did the middle school students get done?
The kids weren't able to do much of the water bar stuff like we were hoping. Just kind of a lot of the basic maintenance and some cleanup. I think there's probably still a day's worth of real trail building work out there that we can schedule. They filled in some and smoothed out some, but water bars, which is what I was thinking would be a real benefit, it was just probably a little bit. There were almost too many kids. I think we had over 100 and some kids up there.
So,
That's awesome.
so you think we could spend just a day installing the water bars and doing the general maintenance? Because the other idea that Corey brought up was, could we use the volunteer day just to knock out the connection from Pirate Park to
We could.
the existing loop?
I mean, I just don't know where that stands with, I know that it was kind of pushed forward as one of the priority trails in 2016.
Or could Boulder
Uh-huh.
Youth Corps do that this summer?
Youth Corps could do it. What I think would be good is probably bringing that one back around to the board and saying, we talked about it as a priority trail in 2016, and saying we're going to address it this year. It's easy enough to stake out and then cut, and it'd be a good volunteer day.
Okay. So I guess the other question
It's
would
not
be,
a huge financial issue either.
Not
It's
at
more
all.
of a volunteer
yeah,
to get a trail knocked off.
right. So then the question would be, when do we schedule this volunteer day? Do we want to try to get that? I mean, I know we're now kind of focused on the indoor space. We're going to have extra public engagement meeting next month on it, but do we want to try to get a trail maintenance day to either do the water bars or cut that trail or both sometime in the next month before it gets too hot? Or do we want to just say we'll take care of it in the fall, not worry about it now? We'll do this in like September.
When are there rattlesnakes out?
Now,
Now, yeah, they said
they were just there last week. We walked
babies
by 'em.
are coming out now, yeah.
We do have National Day of Service, which I think we normally do in September.
Yeah, so maybe we just put a pin in this one and we'll take care of it in the fall.
It's good because we don't have a defined project for that yet.
Okay,
So
So-
when we did last year, when we did the BMX track and Coyote Ridge, we started both of those around 5 or 6, I wanna say. And you had plenty of light to get a couple hours in and it wasn't too hot. It really wasn't that bad with both of those.
okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you're running the risk that there could be thunderstorms, but depending on the time you did it, but,
Right.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we did them one in July and one in August.
Okay. Skate park,
Yep. So
Think we can
I'll
knock-
just
knock that out
kind of
real
go over
quick?
this really quickly, and actually I'm going to start with your guys' other request, which was the master plan. This is not a final document, but I wanted to. So existing Autry Park. Wanted to kind of show you a 2-scale, because I know there were some concerns about fitting features in. So existing bike park, some kind of possible future expansion of bike park. I'll show you in depth the skate park layout, but generally skate park here, pickleball here, and this is the 8-court model. We did learn today that pickleball is going to probably have to move about here. Not a huge impact, but we had some floodplain issues as we rounded this corner, and that they were just much more comfortable with us moving the courts to about
Are we gonna
here.
get 8 courts with the budget?
I don't know. I'm just showing it as the master
size.
plan
Okay.
size, because that was one of the comments we heard. So we're continuing to work on this. I liked where you guys were going with the master plan process, future parking here along the road. We've already kind of vetted that out. That probably will not come this year. That would probably come, next year.
And from there, you'd have to walk down to there
Here.
and cross the bridge.
Here's the other thing we're also looking at is the possibility of another access bridge, but that's a little bit,
Spendy?
well, it's a little bit, crossing a creek causes some more process because you're
Right.
more potential flood impediments. Doable, totally doable, just a little bit more process. All right, so
No change to the roadway?
Nope.
Just the future parking?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll keep plugging away at this. We'll get this cleaned up. I want you guys to feel good about kind of the master plan.
Yeah, this looks cool.
So let's kind of jump around. I'm actually kind of excited about skate park. Okay. So American Ramp Company took the original feedback when we were looking at the South Pool and then the wildflower feedback and have kind of come up with this concept, which is a really I think, kind of a creative concept. You've got the skate park, the concrete skate park. I'll zoom in a little bit. Essentially all the same features, the box, the rails, wall here, kind of the sunken down areas. But what else is cool is they've got this asphalt pump track, which is a multi-use pump track, bikes and skate. And we've been doing a little bit of research on them, and they're blown up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ability to have the bike park there, the skate park there, and then this kind of dual use scooter, skate park, bike feature was kind of exciting for us to see. So this is what we're currently looking at.
And that all fits within the budget?
This fits within, well, so here's the thing, remember the board asked us, right? The board said the budget was designed around the space that we had. If
Okay.
you remember that conversation.
Yes, I do remember that.
And they said, build the skate park to fit the need in the space, okay? So, not that we just kind of opened up the checkbook. So, and plus, we also were in a floodway, so there was earthwork. The design's still largely around $350,000.
Okay.
What's going to cost us a little bit more is, like always, the soil's much better here. We only actually have to go down 3 feet, which is
Wow.
which is the least depth.
Did the rest of it wash away?
It's just you're just completely different soil. So
Well,
if you
it's
figure,
not basement fill.
yeah, if you remember from the South Pool location, they were saying 6 to 12 plus piers down 15.
Yeah.
Right.
Here, you're talking 3 feet and water tables at like 11. So the soil is in these floodways much better, I guess. It's not that clay with the kind of sand on top. So it's going to cost us a little bit more, but not, I think we'll be in that 4 range with the earthwork. I'm actually really pleased with the design, but ultimately want to
Yeah,
get your
looks
guys'
Cool. I like
feedback on it.
The bike and the skate.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think they'll be able to start on this?
So,
Timeline,
June, July.
it's like weeks away.
Don't remind me. Yeah. So and the pickleball court hopefully is going to go out to bid maybe even Friday or Tuesday.
Dang.
So Allison on staff is just crushing it
Cool.
and understands the urgency and the desire to get this in. And then the other follow-up as well is, we heard loud and clear there was a need to do some replacement features at the South Pool. So we're putting about $15,000 worth of replacement features back at the South Pool. And that'll probably happen the same time just because I don't want to pay them to come out twice.
Some skate features?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Nice.
And actually I might have them.
Well,
I know I have them, but. Anyway, what we're basically doing up there is more, we're not going full on small half pipe. We're doing a box and kind of a kicker wall and then something else. I don't remember. But anyway, they felt like appropriate uses for that space. And we definitely recognize that neighborhood was used to having that there. So
Cool.
yeah, this is it.
Can you,
This is
Nice.
by any
it.
chance, send that to us?
Here's a little bit more of the, the individual kind of zoomed in features. There's kind of the, and big, long term, I anticipate this eventually becoming green grass. If we could figure out how to get irrigation over there, which we will, I think over the years we start to plan and program in. If you have pickleball kind of hanging out here, I envision some kind of seating area in the future with pavilions, shelters. We're going to try like heck to get these turned into concrete as soon as possible, probably this year. So I really do start to see this as an extension of community park,
Right,
Corey's,
It's my,
there it is.
it's my
There it is.
activity spline.
Yeah, right there.
Call it Corey's
Activity,
Corridor.
can we call it Activity Spline Park? That doesn't flow.
I don't think so.
So I
The
appreciate,
activity corridor.
I appreciate your
Corey's
guys'
Corridor.
I appreciate the patience. What's that?
Are you starting on the pickleball courts there too? or is
Pickleball
it-
courts will be out to bid.
Yeah.
Pickleball, my guess is will start before skate park. just because, you know, we're now going on almost year 3 with the American Ramp Company. So we'll need to kind of wait for their schedule to open up a little bit. And pickleball is kind of slab on grade, you know, kind of work.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Design looks awesome.
they've done, you know, I've been really impressed with this company, and we've put them through the ringer. If you figure, we started this a couple of years ago, and this is our 3rd location, and you know, they've really never changed their price once, and they've been really fairly accommodating to work with. So even when we told them we were putting it in a floodplain. It will have a drain, so that's what we're working on right now.
Just turn into a water slide.
So there'll be a little bit of earthwork, Corbett, to your point. There'll be some costs there because we'll have to actually pipe and get some drainage back into the creek. But, you know, in the event that this area floods over, that creek water was going to end up back in the creek anyway. So it's not major like what we're doing on Coal Creek, where you have to get Army Corps of Engineer and the EPA and that. You know, we're not changing the flow of the water. The only problem is we've created some bowls now that we don't want the water to sit in. But we're not displacing the water by too much with either project. There was a little bit of concern about the fencing around the pickleball courts and collecting flood debris. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna put sleeves in, and then we'll have a removable fence. And in the event we had a major storm activity, we would just go down and remove the fence. And I think that feels like that's a good solution for everybody.
Okay. So Riverbend Park, we just have to have a really quick discussion on, is this something that we really want to pursue at this time? So in order to get a good analysis of the idea of a playground in Riverbend Park, we're going to have community engagement. Right now, we're going to be having community engagement on the indoor space. Quite frankly, we've only heard the playground request at Riverbend Park from, 2 people? It's not like there's a loud neighborhood cry here for it. So in my mind, unless we really thought this was going to be a budget request for next year, I think we can just kind of postpone this till later in the year. But if anyone really thinks that this should be a budget request for next year, we're gonna have to do it sooner, so now's the time to speak up. All right, so we'll still tackle it on this year's work plan. It's just not gonna be in the first half. It'll be in the second half sometime. All right, so cemetery improvements, that was mentioned that it's gonna be a joint task, like working group.
Is anybody interested in, we have $50,000 this year to come up with a cemetery improvement plan. Staff was planning on tackling it. The board is interested in having it be more of a working group with various opinions. If anybody's interested in it, shoot me an email offline and we'll get the process coordinated. It's largely gonna be driven by the historic commission, but the elected officials were interested in some additional participation.
Bullet points for the monthly newsletter. As Karen said, that's something that she's adding from all the committees, is to get a couple bullet points. Or she forgot to discuss it as a committee last time, so I just gave a couple bullet points from like the last few meetings of what we're working on. If everyone's in agreement, I think we just kind of take the highlights of this meeting, namely the indoor space discussion, and make that our bullet points, but we could put
I think we should throw the skate park in there. I think it looks pretty cool, and I think that we spent a lot of time on it, and the community, I know that they've been waiting, so just to show them that, hey, something's coming, but I don't know, timeline, it's one of those, by the end of the summer.
Also,
It's tough, yeah, I mean, we don't quite have board approval, but we're not, next pros newsletter will go out in about a month, so I think we'll feel pretty good by then.
Well, I mean, I guess the bullet points I gave her, did they go in the May letter, or are they not till the June
just
letter?
went out.
No, they went out today.
Did they
Yeah.
go
Went
out
out this
today?
morning.
They did.
Okay.
For this afternoon.
I don't check my personal email. till
Do we
it's
wanna
just
mention
ended.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I haven't read any of my email yet today.
All right, so we'll Corey and I can come up with a couple bullet points for that. So PROSTAC meeting attendance, the reason I put this here is, I mean, now we do have one new member. We had been down 2, and then next month will be the last meeting for myself and Susan.
I'm thinking about changing my mind if they'll let me stay.
Oh, okay. Well,
Unless
You
there's other
can
people
teeter-totter.
that.
Oh, let me know.
yeah.
I heard it.
Let,
I got it recorded.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I would
You're
like
locked
to,
in.
but if there's someone else who has stepped up,
There's
then,
not.
okay, then I would
Okay.
So-
officially like to stay.
Yeah, so
Done.
when I put this on here,
Love it.
my point was gonna be that if we still had 2 empty seats and Susan and I left, then through the summer, until new appointees were made, there would only be 5 members on the committee, which is quorum. So if anyone, was not gonna be here, you would not have quorum to get you through this whole community center discussion potentially. It looks hopeful that there will be the next seat or, committee member spot will be filled because I think there's a couple people interested. If Susan, if you say that's great, because then that's one seat that doesn't have to get filled. So then there's potentially only the one seat. So it's a little bit less of a concern now, especially since Michelle's now with us. But I just want to bring it to everyone's attention. I know that we all tend to leave in the summer months, but since we do have a major work plan item going on during those months, please try your best to attend. I know you were going to be gone July and August, right?
No, June and July.
June and July, okay. So, yeah, anyone else, if you know you're gonna be out, let, myself, Corey know, especially since, Corey will be responsible after next month. So,
After next month.
After next month, I'm
with
gone.
as much notice as possible,
make it
just
through
because
one month.
we have had a couple, before the 4 were added, Kelly, Susan, Maria, and Jacques, before you were added, there were a couple months where and actually, I think there was 1 month, which is the only time, all the time I was here, that we did not have quorum. And there were some times where we were really playing it, and then someone would call at the last minute and say they weren't coming to a meeting, and all of a sudden we were worried about quorum. So just try to let us know if you're not gonna be around, so we can make sure we're gonna have 5 people there.
Is there a call-in option in case you're out of town?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Corey's tried it. I don't
It's
think
not very good.
But it doesn't really count. I don't think it counts as
Not for
attendance.
quorum.
No, and you cannot,
Yeah.
there's some legalities with your ability to vote.
Right,
Yeah.
but just to be able to listen
Yeah,
in
but
if
to
you're.
be able to listen.
I found when I've traveled and listening in, it's easier just to listen to the live feed and not even try and call in. Because I tried to call in and couldn't get in, and I listened to the live feed and it was.
Yeah,
When I
we tried
text
to do
Patrick and go-
Skype once and it didn't really work.
Yeah, I had a problem.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. And then
I went with my flights around it.
4th of July too.
Get here right on time.
If you think you can attend again, especially since we're going to be talking about the community center.
Yeah, we
Um,
can have those community
that-
center things.
I mean, hopefully we can get our own booth,
Oh, yeah.
not
This
a
would be its
shared
own-
booth